Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ryder Cup. Sorry, everybody, for the delay, but we are finally on air. This is Lychee from IVLychee, and this is such an exciting day because the IVLychee channel gets to be the streaming platform for today's tournament. And with me today is the brain behind it all, the host and my co-commentator, and that is Malcolm Ryder. So, Malcolm, why don't you say hi and introduce this tournament?
Hello, everyone. My name is Malcolm Ryder. It's a pleasure to be here with every one of you. Really looking forward to such great competition. We got a great lineup for today, so I hope y'all will be here to stay with us. Uh, Looks like for the round one, we are going to be having Fusion versus LY Hunting or LSY Hunting. With Fusion is going to be hunting first, and it looks like LSY has banned Eversleeping, and they chose to survive first. So here we'll be having Fusion banning Dancer in the first round, in the first lineup. Lychee, what are your thoughts on Dancer banning in a first round?
Yeah, we've definitely seen how strong Dancer has been. We saw in the past Call of the Abyss how strong she is in terms of teamwork. And a lot of teams have had success on her on a lot of maps, including this one. So I'm not surprised to see that ban right off the bat. As you can see, Malcolm and I are kind of going to be communicating what the bans and picks are going to be like for everybody who's in the audience. So since we're unable to show that on the screen, you can just kind of listen into this segment here. But yeah, Dancer banned right off the bat, and I saw they locked in Seer and Mercenary as well. Is that right, Malcolm?
That is correct. Honestly, very two stable picks. Merc, for a big map like Lakeside, having that ability to have such a dependable rescuer come in from long distances using those elbow pads is great to secure to secure those stable rescues. However, I do think that Merc has been somewhat falling off in terms of meta because his debuff in terms of Cypher Rush has been a little bit lacking. It appears that most teams appear picking FO over Mercenary, so it'll be interesting seeing how they plan on utilizing a Mercenary in this round currently. And of course we have a Seer. I mean, it's a Seer, it's a very stable pick. In terms of support, his support could be potentially one of the best. Although we do see that Seer himself is kind of falling off. In terms of like his ability, in terms of his kiting potential, since a lot of teams like to prioritize that long kiting time, like long aggressive kite with a lot of support. So Seer, honestly, very stable as long as he can rotate very well, and we have a big map here to really emphasize that. So I don't really see any issues with this ban with these locks from the surviving side.
Yeah, for sure. I do think it's quite interesting because the survivors have also chosen a batter here, which we don't often see come out in round one, but it's always awesome to see those specialty players who bring out characters like that. I'm curious if they can make some teamwork happen with the batter here.
Yeah, I do think that batter could be somewhat of a strong pip, given that we have mentioned that current meta has been saying that they've been prioritizing that long aggressive kite style, and if you have a batter posted up as say small boat or big boat, using his ability to push the hunter away can really buy time for whomever is kiting. And the hunter has chosen to ban Antiquarian and Polices, so I really think that the batter here might make up for the Antiquarian ban. Although in terms of kiting potential from a batter, it may be on the weaker end. We'll just have to wait and see how Fusion chooses to utilize him, and we'll see how they perform.
Right.
Looks like the Hunter has locked in Night Watch into a Merc, Seer, Batter, and Acrobat. Team comp, any thoughts on that? Night Watch is a fairly new hunter, so I'm curious to see how they use him here.
Yeah, I'm very curious as well. I feel like Night Watch, typically on maps with a lot of walls, I see him get tight kited a lot, but this is a map where there's some stronger areas and then a lot of open areas. So I'm curious to see if this Night Watch can gain some advantages, since Lakeside is one of those few maps where there does seem to be quite a bit of a hunter advantage. I do see some people in the chat are saying the mic doesn't sound great. I will try to do some fixing on that after this match. For now, y'all might have to rely on the visuals a little bit more than the mic.
Is that my end? Is my mic issue? Oh no. Let me see if I can fix that.
You do suddenly sound louder to me. I can also fix my volume as well if I'm a little bit low. Appreciate the feedback from the chat though.
Thank you very much, chat. Appreciate it. Yeah, Lakeside does appear to be kind of a undersided map, given that the visuals that the hunter can utilize to see where survivors are at quite hard to, but makes it quite easier for the hunter to see them. But here we have a small boat spawn from the hunter, and we're gonna have looks like the seer having an early kite already into the Night Watch over at walls, and a very early hit for the Night Watch. So honestly, a good start for the Night Watch here.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, let's get back to the hunter here. Looks like they are going to kite around the little boat area here, pretty far away from the rest of the teammates at least. And Acrobat does have a ball to work with as well. So we'll see how long he can hold out for. The seer has owl to use as well if they want.
Bit of an early owl coming in for the seer. He'll try to make his way to Shack, but the Night Watch is going to use that speed boost ability and is going to down the seer batter support. Now it looks like the batter won't be able to harass that. The angle was not right for him. However, looks like the Cypher Rush in general is a little bit on the lower side. Looks like Acrobat Cypher is around 70. We do see that the Merc is coming in to give tonight as his Cypher is around 50 and the batter Cypher is around 40. So all in all, what are your thoughts? I think this could be a potential draw as long as the second kite is long enough. However, this Night Watch does have blinks, so they will have to work around that.
Right. I do think they have to be... Oh, blink right there, but Acrobat managed to dodge that hit, which was quite nice. Unfortunately got hit over the window there. He did have a ball to work with, I believe, but wasn't able to use that out. Let's see if maybe eventually the batter can come over. I do see his image there.
He's going to miss that gust there, which is honestly quite huge for the batter, since Night Watch can pull you out of any charged abilities like Ento or Priestess or forward or batter in this case. So the batter is going to have to avoid that. He's going to use that little boundary area, trying to get the ball, but does not look like he'll be able to harass that. Just a little bit out of range there. Very nice job from the batter, trying to buy as much time as he can, and he's going to even be able to get away without getting injured. So fairly decent bit of harassment from the batter. Not the best in terms of this year being able to kite. However, it looks like they still have a bit of an edge here.
Right. We'll see how much time they can buy after this rescue. The tie turner bought a little bit of time, but I don't think the last rebound kite was too long. But we do have a nice ball coming in here from this batter at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it looks like the seer over-rotated and right into the Night Watch, so the seer will beat down. Bit of a miscommunication. I think batter should have told seer that that the Night Watch was not in fact following the seer to the window. So the seer overcommitted to one angle of Shack, and unfortunately it did not play out well for him. Bit of a fast elimination on the fusion side here. LFY is going to have to hope that this second kite can be quite long, given that they are at 2 ciphers remaining. More like 1.5, given that the one pulls the batter. Nice flying wheel. Can he push? Oh, he just barely won't be able to push, but very nice attempt from the batter here. It looks like they'll be able to heal up.
Right. Yeah, and just sorry about earlier, I kept talking about the Acrobat. I have so many screens pulled up that I was confused. But it was the seer who, was dead on chair after that kite. So thanks for keeping keeping us on track, Malcolm.
It's okay. It's okay. Looks like Merc is gonna be coming in to do another rescue. Honestly, I think this I the stable rescue before half for the mercenary, but the Night Watch is gonna be able to get that double down by using their gust to pull the Merc back. Batter is now going to make his way towards Shack. Now this area has been used by the Seer, so unfortunately there is no power to work with. And the Night Watch is going to use their wind to jump over the window. Oh, canceling attack recovery. Unfortunately, the Batter will be down over at Shack, which I think is where the Acrobat was decoding. And the Merc has been down on the Cypher that was remaining.
Right. And it looks like Nightwatch is going to get a little bit of a chance here since the mercenary is unable to pop this cipher. Acrobat kind of has to be in charge of rescuing, and they have to get back onto the ciphers after the rescue happens. So, actually, it manages to cut off the Acrobat potentially.
Ooh, getting an early hit in, and he'll have that gust, so he'll be able to. I think this could be his stuff here, which is quite unfortunate for LFY. Oh, and there's the blink, so that's going to be 4 on a down on the Acrobat, and I think. Okay, that'll be a 4-man elimination for Fusion in the first part. Part of round 1. Very great gameplay from Fusion's Hunter. Very strong gameplay.
Yes, definitely. Getting that round 1 advantage puts them in a really great position heading into the second round for sure. This is a best of 3, and we're going by the round wins. So, being able to get the first one means you only have one more round to win before you're able to hit that goal.
Yeah, apparently my mic is still quite low, so I'll do my best to speak up, but I'm not sure how to fix that on my end, unfortunately.
Let me also try to increase your volume a little bit on my side. It might be a little bit of trial and error.
Unfortunately. Okay. All right. So that was a great performance again from Fusion's Hunter. Now we have LFY hunting against Fusion Survivors in the second part of round 1. Like she said, this is a best out of 3. We are scoring this by rounds. So if LFY is to draw this round, they will need a 4-man. But if they're not, that's perfectly fine. They still have plenty of time to make this up in the later rounds.
Yes, that is true as well. It is only the first round, so they do have plenty of time to come back from that. But it was very exciting to see Nightwatch getting played. We haven't really seen Nightwatch be able to be played in many tournaments yet. So this is kind of one of the first matches probably that we're seeing him played in tournament, and being able to see his strength so far is pretty cool.
I think the spawn layup primarily was what kind of set the surviving team back. Unfortunately, I think the hunter, given that he likes being able to use his wind to slow down survivors and also speed himself up respectively, I think he was able to take advantage of that, given that this small boat spawn. And I think unfortunately the Seer just couldn't buy enough time for him to get his owl back. And I think that once that happened, he just couldn't get back onto a sort of tempo that allowed him to pull ahead into a into a stable kite.
Yeah, that's true. And we did see the batter did try to come in support for the rebound kite, but it was only a little bit successful. The first time, I think the rebound kite wasn't very long. So maybe next time, hopefully they can have a little bit more teamwork there going on and be able to help with the help of the support, be able to help their teammates cut a little bit longer with that team effort.
All right, looks like we'll be having the second part of round 1 start. And I do believe we have a priestess band. Um, Priestess has been a very strong character from ever since she was brought into this game. And I think that LFY recognizes that, and they really want to remove the support she can bring, given that her portals can pull survivors from a somewhat mediocre area into a better area. With two portals, a survivor could get from big rock to small boat, and small boat in its own right, depending on what hunter you're going against, is a very strong cutting area, given that it has two pallets, a window, very high walls, all the things perfect for a good kiting area. So it makes sense to want to eliminate that, especially now that the current usage for a priestess is to use those world portals for a cipher rush sort of thing, where like she can spawn her warp portals on like opposite ends of the map. The rescuer will leave that cipher, and the priestess can decode back and forth. So honestly, it makes sense because it's essentially like having your own sort of like makeshift prisoner in a way. And we all know that prisoner is quite strong. I know some of you guys like to play him, so it makes sense that they'd want to eliminate priestess, given that she can support, she can kite, and she can also decode and cipher rush very efficiently.
Yes, that's a really great summary there, and I think the makeshift priestess description is quite on point, or makeshift prisoner, sorry. That was quite on point as well. It's kind of the hunter's preference whether they think priestess is worthy of the ban on this map, but those world portals can be so game changing, so it definitely makes sense. And then I see here, it looks like after the priestess ban, we had a patient and a mercenary lock in. So picking these survivors that can cross this very large map very quickly, I believe.
Definitely picking patient is a very stable kiter. I know that some teams try to prefer him as a substitute rescuer. Given that it seems that they like using that some of the players on other servers try to save Merc to do later rescues, because we've established that he's a very solid rescuer, very consistent rescuer. So saving that tide and that ability to rescue for a full present hunter, it makes sense that they might try to force that patient to rescue sooner. I'm not sure if their angle is a flywheel patient or a tide patient. I guess we'll have to see later, but I think the build will determine what their plans are exactly. Given the patient Merc lock-ins, what do you think the survivors are preparing for on the fusion end?
Well, it's kind of interesting that they went ahead and chose to ban or to pick the patient and Merc first. I think those are really stable picks, and a lot of times we tend to see people more so go for like the supporters first and get those before they get banned. We did see that right after the patient and Merc was taken, the antiquary and the toy merchant were the next bans. So because they didn't pick those supporters and harassers, they got banned right off the bat. So I think this is interesting. I don't know if they think that the hunter is going to play more of a camping hunter, and that's why they're prioritizing more of these stable characters. They've got an acrobat lock-in as well, it looks like, which more so adds to this like stable, able to have second rescuers if they want, able to have pretty decent kiters, but not a whole lot of supporters yet.
And the Embalmer is going to be their last lock. Actually, choosing to lock in Acrobat over Seer is quite interesting too. I do want to mention that one, Lychee. They chose Seer was the last character to be banned from the Hunter end, and then they followed that by Embalmer. So it looks like this is a very, I want to say, independent team comp. However, there is a bit of overflow. If we have the first kiter, say the Acrobat, run past the Embalmer can offer to give his coffin to the Acrobat, and then all the Acrobat has to do is die away from his coffin. And since he has his bombs, it should be quite easy to make his way, to use that distance that the bombs give him to on a big map such as Lakeside as well. And it does seem that the Hunter is going to be playing Clerk as well. Clerk, we've been seeing a lot of her in the recent in this past Koa, in the past IVL. Clerk has been a very strong round one hunter. A lot of people's surprises. Her ability to lock ciphers once she has that presence and really prolong the game to a point where she's becomes a nightmare really makes her a threat. However, um, Acrobat, Embalmer, Patient, these are all strong kiting characters. Well, I mean, the Embalmer might not be so strong. However, it appears that most Embalmers like to bring Flywheel broken and just use that coffin for later. So it'll be interesting how they use that Clark in this round. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. It's hard to find a really good target to chase as the clerk because, like you mentioned, they all have pretty decent kiting abilities, except for the embalmer, who, of course, has the coffin as a backup as well. And I mean, on this map, of course, it's so large that if the embalmer manages to die away from his coffin, the clerk may be forced to switch targets or switch to teleport, which most likely won't happen because most likely the clerk will bring blink. No need to worry about any harassers or the possibility of excitement. So I think, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this goes down for the clerk. It'll really depend on the survivors giving her opportunities, I think, for her to get an advantage in this match here. Even though they don't have a lot of supporters, because they're strong kiters, they can also potentially, if they make it to the late game with lots of members, they can potentially go for the body blocking strategy as well. So we'll have to see what they do.
Of course. And I mean, we have to really just nail down the use of the embalmer here. I really think that having an embalmer use their coffin on the first rescue can really help with the cipher rush, because now instead of having to force your rescuer to go in and leave their cipher, now you can just choose to have the embalmer embalm. Now the clerk doesn't have that presence that they very much need. Once they get the full presence, they become a challenge for them to deal with. And then let's say your coffin's at Big Boat and the chair is at all the way in the bad corner, like by walls. That could be really hurtful for the clerk, especially if her trait's been used and forced out. So honestly, this could be a very strong comp. It could be a very hard for the clerk to deal with, but I'm really interested to see how the clerk plays this out.
Yeah, for sure. With Clerk, there's always so much micromanaging as well. Always very impressive to see Clerk players pull her out and do really well in tournaments. I think we definitely saw back in like Call of the Abyss, NAEU qualifiers, we saw a lot of Clerk then. And in the other region qualifiers as well, we saw some Clerk. But then when it came down to like the group stage and the finals, Clerk wasn't chosen that much. And we saw when she was chosen, she was very strongly countered by the survivor teams who had a lot of just very good coordination, very good teamwork, whether it's body blocking or coming in for harassing or support or just basic kiting skills. So we saw that she wasn't able to get too much an advantage at that point. So it's interesting to see how she's kind of come and gone in the meta and is still kind of active in the meta, but is maybe not nearly as strong as we thought she was back in the beginning of KOA or back at the end of last year.
Mm-hmm. Clark appears to be something of a time hunter, but she still does have that win potential if survivors do make a mistake. So definitely going to be interested in seeing how they perform in this round. Okay, I think we are ready to start. So let's wish these teams a good luck, everyone.
Yes, definitely. All right, so round 2, second half, or round 1, second half. I can't even get my numbers straight. Oh my gosh. You'd think that by 4 p.m. my brain would be awake, but you know.
I'm sure we'll have a lot of excitement for that. I don't worry about it. So looks like we have the embalmer at Big Boat. I'm not too surprised about that one. He's going to want to put his coffin in a very strong area. Plus, if the clerk does choose to engage on him, he'll have a strong kiting area. Any thoughts on the rest of the spawn selection?
I think this is kind of a pretty typical layout of the spawn selection on Lakeside Village. Yeah, we'll have to see how that first chase goes if the clerk decides to go for the shack versus chasing the nearby survivor in the small boat area.
That is good to mention that patient versus acrobat. Who do you choose for? Because this team comp is quite strong. This clerk really has been put in a hard position, considering that she has to walk all the way to big boat, past the merc, let the patient decode, let the acrobat decode. She's affording a lot of time to the survivors that she really doesn't uh, have. Now it looks like the patient instead has chosen to go all the way to Big Bow. Now this really could work out for the survivors. If the embalmer can get close enough to the patient, he can actually offer that coffin, and then just like I said, he can use those hooks and get that distance and make his way towards shack. But it looks like an early recording from the clerk is going to lead to a hit. Very nicely done from the clerk's time.
Yes, nice job of the clerk to be able to get a hit while the survivor's in a very strong kiting area. We'll see how much more time this acrobat can buy. I do see the blink is almost up for the hunter as well, so she will have that extra, but patient does have a couple more hooks left too.
Oh no, trying to blink up the docks is going to fail, and they're immediately going to be forced to switch towards the embalmer. Had that blink landed, that would have been really strong for a really fast down for the clerk, but you cannot blink up that elevation. So they're gonna get the recording and break this pallet, and they're gonna use that recording for their future chase against this embalmer here. Embalmer does have coffin, and very nice mind game from the clerks, and that's gonna lead to another hit. And with that pallet breaking that they're gonna use, they're gonna try to maintain that pressure on this embalmer over here.
Looks like the embalmer is going to keep kiting around these pallet areas. A little bit tricky always mind game against the clerk, but clerk does get a basic hit here near the mercenary cipher. We'll see if he decides to be the first rescuer since his cipher is likely getting disrupted here. And clerk finally has her first survivor on the chair here. This is kind of where her game really begins now that she can start cipher pressuring and camping at the same time.
Now we do have to keep in mind that we do have this merc here who we have mentioned time and time again as a stable rescuer. So they're gonna use that tide turner most likely to have that embalmer go all the way to cornfield. And since they know the clerk has used blink, this is basically a free coffin now for the embalmer. He's gonna use that distance and that speed boost to make his way as far away from the clerk as possible, and basically just drag her with him. And then in doing so, that's just going to afford more time for the other survivors to decode.
Yes, definitely. He's run all the way to this corner here. It's going to waste so much time for the clerk if she decides to continue to go after this embalmer here. But at the same time, who else could you chase from this team composition unless you get another really good chance to down somebody else? It's going to be tough either way. And we actually do see the teleport come out at this point in the game, being pressured to teleport because of that coffin location and trying to tunnel this embalmer here.
Looks like the patient wasn't unable to stop that, was unable to pop that cipher, so it did give a free teleport to the clerk. That embalmer's going to use both of his speed boosts to try and maintain a lot of distance. He does not have to worry about any sort of blink because she did switch to teleport, so this could potentially be a rebound kite question mark? Oh no, looks like he's gonna get mind gamed at that pallet there. Very nice job from the clerk here. However, it looks like there's already one cipher remaining, so honestly the survivors, given their early game and mid game, they played it quite well in terms of cipher rush.
Yes, that's definitely true. They were able to buy out a lot of time. I mean, even with just the tie turner in the coffin, but in general, it seems like it may be enough time still for, both sides to potentially get a tie, I guess, at this point. We'll see what the clerk decides to do at this endgame situation. Looks like the acrobat is going to be potentially the target till the end of the game here, while the other two are rushing that last cipher. It is at 15%. We'll see if clerk can get another survivor on the chair before that last cipher is popped.
And we do see that they're double decoding that cipher, which does force the clerk to turn off her recording much faster, which ultimately will allow them to waste her recordings. Very nice mind game again coming from the clerk here. She's gonna record that. She has a recording on the merc, so she does know where he's at, and her spectate is up, so she technically could teleport, and is gonna teleport immediately. And we're gonna see if this leads to another down, marking the merc again, and the patient's going to use another hook to make his way up to dots. However, the survivors are in a dangerous position here, considering that all of them are injured, and the cipher that the merc is working on is only 30%.
Right. Now this is a pretty difficult spot, like you mentioned. It looks like the patient is going to go to the basement. At this point, I suppose Mercenary could still pull off a rescue as well, but he is coming all the way from the other side of the map. They have to worry about decoding that cipher versus getting the patient off the chair, and we see Acrobat got recorded as well, which doesn't help them gain any cipher progress while this patient is on the chair here.
So it looks like with just a simple few clicks of moves, the match has shifted dramatically into the clerk's favor, because if the merc does choose to rescue, like lychee mentioned, it will lead to a double down, and then a double down at roughly 40% of the cipher is not what the surviving side needs right now. They need to get at least a one man, and it looks like the clerk is in a very strong position to prevent that.
Yes, definitely. I feel like Clerk is one of those hunters where as soon as you lose one survivor teammate, it gets so much like exponentially harder to play against her, because then she's chasing somebody, she's pressuring somebody's cipher, somebody might be on the chair at the same time. Like, you just lose so much of your resources just by losing one of your teammates, and that kind of feels like what happened right here. And we do see that the Acrobat now is getting chased. Meanwhile, Patient kind of just has to take the elimination there for the team.
It looks like they're using that vision on the side. We can see that the merc is over there, and that's why the clerk is able to record. Another reason why this map is somewhat hunter-sided, especially for the clerk's end. So that merc is basically prohibited from decoding for the rest of the match. And unfortunately, that's gonna force the Acrobat to waste more bombs, because as the kite prolongs the resources in terms of pallets are going to be used up. So then the bombs will have to be used, and the Acrobat's potential for kiting her is going to greatly diminish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are definitely trying their best to draw her attention, kind of playing on different sides of the map, but we do see that the teleport is available as well if the clerk does end up deciding she wants to teleport, chase the other person for a while, wait for her teleport to be up again, and then teleport back to the other cipher. Like, she could rinse and repeat this strategy as well. And we do see the teleport coming into play right now against this mercenary, who is forced to expend one of his elbow pads as well. That cipher does look like it has decent progress on it, but against a clerk, even a cipher with a lot of progress can be really hard to pop. So they have their work cut out for them, for sure.
Now, I'm not sure how many bombs the Acrobat has left. I think it's one. We do have one slow bomb. We know that much at least. But if the clerk chooses to stall out again until their teleport, it's possible that that the clerk would be able to down the Acrobat relatively quickly, and then perhaps use one of those detention clones to down the merc if they choose to go to a gate. We'll just have to wait and see if they're able to pop that. I do think, though, that since they are doing a good job of maintaining their distance against this clerk, that eventually one of these ciphers will be too far advanced for her to leave exactly, which will lead to a pop. Merc is doing his best here, trying to conserve that elbow pad. He needs to conserve this elbow pad for as long as he can. He's gonna elbow pad up the window, up the stairs, and vault this window here, which is gonna lead to a longer kite time. And I think the clerk right now doesn't have a reporting. She's gonna be forced to spectate. I think that one's gonna lock lychee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a lot of time bought from the survivor side. They're definitely doing a really good job of being able to keep the pressure on the merc, on the clerk, just by the merc kiting this out here. I am very curious to see what that last cipher is at. It looks like it's really close based on that overview. Oh, now
it is 75%, but we do see that there is teleport available again. Or sorry, it's 80 now. But the issue is if the clerk chooses to teleport to small boat, that means that docs can be decoded freely. Because she's quite low on her recordings. And the acrobat does have one bomb, while the merc has no whip pass. It looks like they're gonna pop immediately. Wow. So that's gonna be 2 people up endgame. It looks like Fusion just understands that we just need 1 person out, and they're definitely trying to take advantage of that right now.
Yes, definitely. We'll have to see how this endgame goes, since against Clerk, getting the gate decoded can be an issue a lot of the times as well. But this is a full health mercenary, luckily. No elbow pass to work with, but it does mean that he can potentially buy quite a bit of time, even if he does have to take a hit here. So the acrobat there, well, unfortunately, acrobat also takes a long time to decode the gate.
Yeah, and it's gonna add mind game beautifully done from the clerk's end is going to lead to a hit on the merc, and she's just following him, trying to ensure that he does go down, recording the acrobat, making sure that he can't open that gate. Lychee, what do you think should happen here? Do you think the clerk should teleport and risk that she can down the acrobat fast enough? Or, looks like we're going to just down the merc and confirm the down.
Yes, and we'll see if the clerk does decide to try to make a run for that gate. I mean, I'm sure at this point, I feel like you kind of know the acrobat is not able to get that gate open in time, and he won't be too far from the gate at this point. But at the same time, because she can't see where exactly the acrobat is, it looks like she's going to go on foot to search for him, keeping that teleport in case she needs to go back to the chair or to the gate to cut off this acrobat here.
We do see that the acrobat looks like he doesn't want to do a dungeon play here. He does have 1 bomb, and maybe just like Schmitty, he'll be able to clutch dungeon against ACT, but it's quite difficult because the clerk does have 2 detention recordings, and the mercenary is only half on his chair. The clerk here is just looking around. Does he see? I think he might see. Oh, he definitely sees those marks now. Now the clerk has to be very careful with these hits. Does not get the recording to block. Trying to see if they can get they need to get this hit to land.
But the bomb. Yeah, the bomb there. And can she set up this recording before he's able to make it to that dungeon? A little bit of time left on the mercenary's chair as well. So the acrobat, though, is at full health and does have a ball left as well. So very big chance here.
Looks like it was mistimed. That's going to be a 1-man for Fusion. That's going to be round 1 won by Fusion. Outstanding job from the surviving end. Very great effort from the Hunter, though. That was quite a match. So definitely really good performance from the Hunters. And wow.
Yes, we definitely saw quite a bit of back and forth there with the Hunter and the survivors. The survivors seemed to have a pretty good cipher rush during the first kite, but then after the first teammate was eliminated, we saw at some point it seemed like all the survivors were going down. But in the end, with two survivors left, they just were able to kite out and buy so much time between the acrobat and the mercenary that they were able to get that 1-man out. So props to the team for keeping it cool at the very end and just being very, very patient with how they played it out with the clerk at the end game.
Outstanding job on both ends. Wow.
Yes. And yeah, so I mean for the clerk though, getting a 3-person elimination is a very good score. It's just that based on the way that the rounds work, it's still going to be, Fusion just needed 1 survivor out and they were able to get that. So that does give them the win in round 1. So overall, really good job though from both sides, I think, based on how they played this out. We'll have to see if they can keep it up in round 2, if the survivors are going to try to pull out some additional tricks here, because I think from both sides, the Hunters are looking quite strong, regardless of who ended up with the win in the end. So I am curious to see how round 2 will go. We do often see that in NAEU, the Hunter side does tend to dominate a little bit more than in other regions where sometimes we see a little bit more even balance or sometimes more of a survivor domination in regions like Japan or China. So definitely interesting to see the differences between the regions and how each region also has their own play style, kind of their own mini meta as well. A lot of times it seems like the NAEU meta is kind of trying to catch up to the other metas during Call of the Abyss. But at the same time, I think it's not necessarily a bad thing to have your meta that works in your region. So I think that's what is going to make tournaments like these within the region very interesting as well, because we really get to see the own region's flavor of gameplay here without the influence of what are these other regions' metas and how are they playing. So it's kind of cool to see.
Right, I do agree that we do seem to have a track record of our of a somewhat hunter carry sort of mentality in NAEU, and I mean it does work for our server, and I think we do see that, especially here. But and maybe in terms of like international, on an international stage, it might somewhat backfire a bit if the survivors aren't up to a standard, I suppose is the way to phrase it. I don't know. I feel like this is like I didn't phrase that properly, but definitely works for NAEU, and I'd like to see them to see how our teams here try to perform just as well as they do in this stage in terms of a COA or maybe IVT or IVS. So definitely looking forward to the future for some of these teams here. I know that some of them have their eyes on that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's what's awesome about having these community tournaments is that it gives everybody the chance to kind of practice this out as if it were a real tournament and be able to play with that competitive spirit and practice as a team and go against these other teams that are they potentially might face again in those official tournaments as well. So it really does help to elevate the whole region, and where we'll get to see we'll get to see how things progress from now until IVT, all the other tournaments through next COA.
Mm-hmm. Looks like for our round 2 that the Fusion has chosen to ban arms. So any thoughts on arms? Arms appears to, I mean, arms has been a stable map pick, I would say, for quite some time now. In terms of which side it's what like which faction it's sided towards, I would say survivors, given that high walls, lots of pallets, definitely a couple of windows to use. Any reason why you think that they would choose to ban Hunter or to ban arms? Sorry, no, I'm the one that's tired.
And that was Fusion's ban, right? So I guess it might also depend on what they want to do with their Hunter. Like, it's not, depending on also who their Hunter player is this time. If it's Musin, it's not necessarily a very good map for Geisha. I know Dreamer, I believe, has a Dream Witch, but I think that might also be a consideration for them as well in terms of the map ban, because I feel like a lot of times it's easier to adjust on the survivor side to the map than it is for the hunter to be able to adjust to the map, because hunters usually specialize very strongly in a couple of characters, whereas survivors, you have much more options to choose from.
Mm-hmm. Now Dream Witch has some might say that she's a bit off meta, but since I play this hunter and I love her, I've been playing her since season 9. I refuse to believe it, lychee. But Dream Witch has been a strong hunter and will continue to be a strong hunter. But I do think that to some degree, in terms of competitive, she has been struggling a little bit. So if they're banning arms in fear of a Dream Witch, I'm not sure exactly how to feel about that, because I feel like these competitive teams, they know how Dream Witch works. But also, I mean, if you're not playing perfectly against a Dream Witch, she can really snowball out of control. However, we do see that they are going to LFY is going to be locking in Red Church Red Church is, I would say, fairly balanced, in my opinion. Um, Hunters like Bonbon, Blood Queen, Sculptor can really, Wax Artist even can really shine on a map like this. So I'm definitely curious to see even Naya too. I'm really curious to see how this map plays out for LFY. Um, I feel like Red Church offers a lot more. It provides a lot more options for the hunting side, and therefore makes it hard for the surviving team to sort of counter comp that. Like you wouldn't play Wax Artist on Arms Factory because it's high walls, and he doesn't really like that. But Red Church, Naya, Blood Queen, Bonbon, they don't really have that issue on Red Church, so I don't have to worry about a lot more of a hunter pool on Red Church, I would say.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I think that, especially you mentioned Wax Artist too. There's a lot of hunters that are picking him up nowadays, including we saw Fusion's Hunter play Wax Artist back in Call of the Abyss 2. Not Call of the Abyss 2, the number 2, but like also in Call of the Abyss this year. So we definitely saw him come up quite a lot in the tournament. So I am curious if anybody's going to bring out the Wax Artist today. But yes, I do believe we're seeing a Seer and Antiquarian ban from the Hunter side here. So I wonder if we'll see an Antiquarian the whole day, because it seems like she is one of the very popular ban choices. And we did see how strong she is competitively over the past couple of months as well.
Hmm. Hmm. I think Antiquarian has been the teams want to prioritize the Antiquarian, but they also don't want to go against an Antiquarian, which makes her hard to play, or like hard to play her in competitive, because teams realize that Wax Artist, who's relatively strong, um, she gets countered by him if you whack 2 times, I believe it is, somewhere around the 85 or 90 range. Um, on Wax, you get he can't hit you, and you force his Wax, which is kind of a counter towards him. So it makes sense that if you want to play Wax Artist on this map, that you would get rid of her. Likewise, if you're playing Dream Witch, she kind of counters Dream Witch because her hop allows you to avoid patrollers. Dream Witch technically has no secondary ability, so whacking them with a stick means that you can't hit. Um, Blood Queen, I think, would also struggle depending on the tempo. Where like, if I hit you, okay, now I have to mirror. So as long as the Antiquarian can stick while you're about to mirror, then you can't do anything. So it really does make sense that you really want to get rid of this if you're hunting. Um, and I mean, it's obviously kind of a unfortunate circumstance for the survivors that they're in.
Yeah, that's true. Um, yeah, we'll have to see what the rest of the bans and the picks are. I see we do have a geisha ban. I'm assuming, or yeah, we do have a geisha ban and a dancer and merc lock-in. Okay, that's interesting as well. They don't want to deal with the geisha at all. It looks like, yeah, we'll see Dancer and Merc lock-in. We didn't really see Dancer so far, but we did talk about last time, of course, how strong the female Dancer is. So I am curious to see what we're going to see from her. We do know that, of course, Hyunjin's Hunter has a very strong geisha as well. So I'm wondering if this is probably going to be targeting with the geisha band there. But that does mean that we have the potential to see something like a Wax Artist, like we talked about earlier. So we'll see.
And I think that's one of the main reasons that they locked in that Merc, because they do know that Merc is quite strong, dealing against playing into a Wax Artist. On a map like Red Church, I would probably prioritize an FO, given that every time he uses Pocket Watch, he decodes slightly faster. However, FO also gets countered by a Wax Artist, so I think they are preparing for that. And in doing so, they've chosen to preemptively secure that merc, since Wax Artist players choose to get rid of that merc as soon as they can.
Yes. Well, we will see though. I have seen some dancers do a very good job of kiting a wax artist, or at least supporting their teammates in the kite as well. So I think it could potentially be pretty strong. But we'll have to see who the hunter is. We keep talking about wax artists because, of course, Fusion's hunter has a strong wax artist, but it could also potentially be a surprise as well. We'll have to see. Yeah, but we have more bands coming in. It looks like Psychologist and Patient, the duo here. Malcolm, what do you think about that?
I want to know if we can see any type of tethering going on. That the tethering, we don't really see that too often in our ranked matches, but tethering has been very, very strong. With that pulling each other with the Patient and the seer combo, or Patient and the Sight combo. So I definitely would like to see if we can see anything like of that nature. In this matchup, Patient, solid rescuer. He's got, especially in church, he can use those hooks to handle the church windows. Dealing with the psych might be difficult. However, with those 3 hits, she can really tank a lot of damage. And I think I think these are 2 honestly very stable picks.
Yes, it looks like they've been.
Yep, sorry.
It looks like it's going to be a Psychologist and Patient ban here, actually. So
man.
we have a barmaid picked instead after the Psychologist and Patient is banned.
Okay. Okay. I still feel like barmaid is quite solid. I am a former barmaid main. I used to be 3rd for however many weeks or months it was. And I think her support, if played aggressively, really can help out a teammate, especially if they're dead on chair and you can perform a bottle playoff. I think it'll really pay out huge dividends for the team. That being said, her kiting, her self-sufficient kiting is quite strong, given that she was recently buffed. She only needs 19 seconds to perform a drink. So as long as you have your support, say a dancer, or say even a thief, which I see has just been locked in, with a thief with that flashlight can really buy enough time for you to get that bottle off, especially now that they've really heavily adjusted thief. He'll lock your secondary abilities and your traits as well, and you also cannot moonwalk that, so that means there's no more moonwalking, so you can throw out a blind mirror. So I think that the thief honestly is a really strong pick, especially on Red Church. We're seeing the support thief using or placing his flashlights down in front of windows to provide a longer kite time for whoever's kiting. So honestly, the thief is a very strong pick nowadays.
Right, and we did see quite a number of thieves in the Call of the Abyss this year as well, and some really strong performances we saw from teams from Southeast Asia. We saw a really strong performance from Chinese teams playing thief as well. So always cool to see one of the OG characters come up in the meta like that. And yeah, so it looks like the lineup for survivors is going to be dancer, merc, thief, and barmaid there. I guess thief also kind of counts as a harasser, stunner character there, so they check that box as well. We'll have to see for the hunter side what they end up choosing in order to counter that.
What are your thoughts, lychee? What are your thoughts on who the hunter's going to lock in, given the team comp and the map?
This is interesting because at first I was going to say maybe I still think a wax artist, but they did have a seer ban, and we don't always see seer ban, especially first thing when you're trying to play a wax artist. So that does make me doubt a little bit if this is really going to be a wax artist or not. I did see they did it because they only banned antiquarian and not any other harassers. That's also one of the reasons I was thinking maybe this hunter is not super scared of harasser characters, or maybe they just in general don't think any of them are that strong after the antiquarian got banned. But it was interesting because they've got like psychologist, acrobat, and patient banned here. I mean, there's also like a clerk is an option. I don't know if she would necessarily be easy to play. I think a lot of these characters are going to be really hard to chase as well, especially with Dancer and Barmaid, Support, and Thief. But she's kind of one of those characters where you can give her a try against even a tougher Survivor team composition. So I guess that is potentially an option. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what else the Hunter potentially has.
I feel like it could potentially be a hermit wanting to remove any sort of like healing. I mean, obviously he couldn't take care of the barmaid, but he did get rid of the psych and the seer, and I believe that those wanting to prevent those extra hits are really huge for him. And then of course the hits Aquarian. He kind of does counter her with that stunning, but I think hermit could be a play here, but maybe their hunter isn't as familiar with him, even though we've been seeing him being played a little bit more in Koa and the recent IVLs. Looks like we do have the hunter selection. It's going to be an Insolence Detention Naiad on Red Church, playing against a barmaid with borrowed broken windows, borrowed time, thief, flywheel, Murktide, dancer with broken windows as well. So bit of a I would say kite harass kind of thing. Not really. I'm not really seeing any type of support. I don't think, because usually, typically with dancer support, they would bring Tide, spam the boxes and say church or a graveyard, and then go grab an item from a box, and then they would become a pseudo rescuer. So I think they're primarily focused on maybe kite and support, kite harassing depending on that thief. However, bringing broken windows could work, avoiding a Naiad Abyss, and Flywheel for the thief really is going to help him dealing with that Abyss that she makes, since he can Flywheel the water. Any thoughts on this team comp, Lychee?
I think it could potentially be a good team comp against the Naiad, but at the same time, we do often hear Naiad being used to counter female dancer. Like Naiad is a counter to female dancer, is one of the few hunters that is able to counter female dancer with her ability, being able to draw those large water circles. I think it kind of depends, because actually one of the videos I just translated recently was a video of a female dancer doing a really amazing kite against the Naiad, and just was able to time her pirouettes really well to help her escape from that water circle. Of course, I think having Flywheel helps a little bit more, and we saw that Thief does have Flywheel, but the other two, Barmaid and the Dancer, don't. So we'll see if they're able to time the use of their items well, and if they do end up having to kite at some point.
Mm-hmm. So we did see the Naiad spawn back gate with the thief over at this god kite area. Looks like the thief is going to be our first kite, actually, moving his way towards graveyard. Yeah, looks like the thief will be the one kiting. Going to be making an abyss here. Thief is going to immediately leave graveyard, knowing that it's probably going to be watered off. Looks like the first kite will start over in reception. Already using that flashlight as well, trying to buy as much time as he can. And this is why we've seen Thief being such a huge nuisance for hunters. It's very hard for hunters to get close now. And he's going to be playing this heavily aggressively, making his way over towards church, which is where the dancer boxes are at.
Yes, and already putting down, oh my gosh, I think that's two boxes already down here. The Naiad might actually be changing targets to that female dancer instead, but wasn't able to get that hit over the pallet, but should get a hit here, yes, before she vaults the window. So Dancer now does have one box left. We'll see where she decides to go. She decides to loop back around into the church where her boxes are. The Naiad should have blink up in a couple of seconds though, so that is something to watch out for as well.
Mm-hmm. Just narrowly missing the hit there, putting that slow box down to buy as much time as they can, but the blink is going to be forced out over at graveyard. Honestly, it's one cipher should be popping, roughly about one cipher, maybe two, given that back gate's around 80. Mid broken appears to be somewhere around the 90s range. That's going to pop just now, and then reception, which is the thief, is going to be popping. It's going to be roughly around like 30%. Who is that truck coming in to rescue? Looks like the Merc is coming in to rescue, making their abyss here. We do see that the Naiad, I think, is trying to set up a partial circle. Oh, gonna hit immediately instead, trying to not even gamble for a Terror Shock. Going to allow the Dancer to make her way into the church window. and possibly make an abyss. This is already a fairly decent. Okay, using that dash to cut that distance, so the chance for a redemption kite has gone down drastically in just a button. Which is one of the huge things for Naiad, being able to cut that distance is quite strong.
Yes, that's definitely true. And we'll see what they decide to do now. Thief still does have a little bit of flashlight left. He is at full health. I don't know if he'll decide to make it a second appearance sometime soon, but it looks like for now he's actually focusing on the other cipher. And we do see Merc has already gotten the healing drink from the barmaid as well, which does save some time for the team. They can get back on their ciphers here.
And we do see that 5 ciphers have been started. They do have an extra cipher, and given that, we do see that the Merc has came into rescue, and they're gonna allow that dancer to looks like they're trying to really force this dancer to kite, but I don't know if she's gonna. It looks like she's gonna go down. This is not what the survivors wanted. They definitely wanted a bit more kite time out of this. With a double down now, this could be quite difficult for the survivors to come back from. They did have those ciphers over at backgate, middle, reception, and top broken. Top broken's at 50, reception's at 40, church was at 50, and backgate, as I want to say, around like 80. So they probably didn't have to make such an aggressive play. But I do still think that survivors do still have a chance here. If they can pop this reception and church cipher, then they can still have that back gate cipher ready for a ready to pop when they're rescuing.
Yes, it does look like, oh, the thief there, a little bit too early on the flywheel, or missed time on the flywheel there, but is going to get chaired near this reception cipher. That does look like it has quite a bit of progress on it. So we'll see if they can make it up with the other ciphers. It's a little bit tricky at this point with the barmaid and the mercenary only, but luckily barmaid does have another drink to give that mercenary here. So we'll see. Naiad, though, second full presence here, ready to camp, and mercenary is about to come in and give this a shot.
And he is going to try to rescue. He's going to instant. Oh no! Merc used his self-heal and he took the water and the hit, so he unfortunately he won't be able to get back up. Now this puts a lot of pressure on the surviving team because they needed to get that rescue without the Merc going down, but unfortunately the thief gets popped by the water. If the thief was able to kite, it still would have been difficult for the survivors, given that Barmaid would have been the one to pop all 3 ciphers by herself, and that would have been putting a lot of stress on the thief. But we do see that potentially that the Naiad will opt to bleed out the Merc, given that she knows the Merc doesn't have self-heal. Or she might share. She will not share. Okay, she's not gonna share. She's gonna try and bleed out that Merc, knowing that she needs that getting a 4-man is obviously preferred here. The ciphers are roughly 60-70 over reception and backgate. So it's possible that if the barmaid can hide long enough, she could pop either one and then force the Naiad into chairing. And then that way they can prevent the 4-man elimination again.
Yes, that's true. Because otherwise, waiting for your teammate to bleed out is going to just take so much time. But it is tricky here. It looks like Naiad does have tinnitus and seems to have an area of where the barmaid is. And I guess the thing about Naiad is even if she doesn't know exactly where you are, she has a good chance of forcing you to run away eventually with that water circle with the abyss there. So we already saw barmaid moving around a little bit. No footprints, so it looks like this Naiad doesn't exactly know quite yet. We'll continue this game of hide and seek for now.
Barmaid's doing a good job of giving tinnitus here. Unfortunately, they're not able to work on any ciphers, so this Naiad is under no pressure. Wow, just narrowly avoiding that. The Naiad is unfortunately under no pressure just of yet to chair the Merc. However, if the Naiad does choose to try and buy more time, she can actually opt to... Wow, this barmaid has some crazy hiding skills. The Naiad, if she does want to force out more time, she can opt to share the Merc, just so that she does get a bit more time trying to find the barmaid. I think she saw. I think she. Oh no, the barmaid peeked out, and that's gonna be most likely a 4-man elimination. I think here, trying to, unless they can get to the Merc, but Blink is ready, and the barmaid does not have flywheel to avoid that. So this is gonna be quite difficult for this barmaid here.
Right. It looks like the Naiad is catching up quite quickly. Should be able to get this down, whether it's with a basic attack or the humidity. Looks like the humidity does get the barmaid down in the end. So, like you mentioned, Mercenary, no self-heal. Barmaid is down. This looks like, yeah, it's a 4-man elimination for this Naiad. Very impressive.
Very, very impressive gameplay from the Naiad. I really do think that LFY was in a strong position to potentially draw this. I think they just overcommitted their resources trying to get that dancer to kite over at reception, and I think looks like they're back up again. Turn away for 1 second and they're back in it, but it looks like they're trying to promote the scheme as long as they can. Which is not a problem. I think if the barmaid can manage to get away, she still has a chance to pop one of the ciphers. But it looks like the tracks have been found. However, the Merc is close to bleeding out. So if this barmaid can avoid this blink, oh no, the slow vault into the blink is quite hard to beat. So I think that might be the 4-man elimination. Yes, there it is.
Yes.
Very good effort from the surviving side, though. Very strong effort.
Yes, for sure. We saw at the end there, the Merc had actually struggled out of the balloons because the Naiad had been carrying him a little bit earlier. And I don't know if the Hunter remembered that. But yeah, that was interesting. Gave them both a chance to get back up because of that. Because otherwise, without self-heal, the Mercenary would not have been able to get up again. But nice try on the survivor side, and for the Hunter side, yeah, really good job with that 4-person elimination.
Of course. All right, so just want to reiterate towards the chat that for LFY to force a third round, they do need a 4-man on the Hunter side. If Fusion gets another 1-man out, then Fusion will win this matchup, and they will go on to playing in the semifinals, which will be next week on Saturday. So, a lot of pressure for this Hunter, unfortunately. This is kind of the end-all, be-all, but I'm sure that they will be able to rise towards the challenge.
Yes. Very exciting. And of course, they definitely have a chance at getting the 4-man from their Hunter, I think. We did see in round 1, both Hunters did a really strong job. So even if we have, a win from Fusion side here, getting that 4-person elimination, we'll have to see. I think it's very possible that they can come back and match it. There's a chance for both sides still. So we can't count LFY out too soon. We'll see how their Hunter does as well. But yes, so far quite exciting. And I guess this does kind of continue the pattern we were talking about earlier with Fusion's Hunter getting another really strong performance. We see that continued dominance from the Hunter side. So we'll see if the survivors can hold out against LFY's Hunter this time going into the second half.
Of course, I think that both teams are strong, so this is definitely unfortunate to see that one of them has to go, but this is a tournament, and it wouldn't do without there being some sort of elimination. So I'm excited to see the second part of this matchup. Let's wish both teams a good luck.
Yes, good luck.
Good luck to both teams, yes.
And let us know in the chat too who you're rooting for. Feel free to cheer on your team as well, your favorite team, or go ahead and cheer on both teams if you want, because they're doing a really good job on both sides. So yes, let's get some support in.
Mm, okay. So it looks like we're just gonna be heading in towards the ban pick phase right now. Looks like Dancer and Priestess have been banned. Uh, feels like feels like we've been really just talking about these two for both of the rounds. But once again, Dancer and Priestess both provide very strong support. The synergy, I think, could work quite well actually if you have Priestess portals leading towards Dancer slow boxes. Um, I think that could pay out really huge benefits for the surviving side or for the serving side. So I think the hunter wants to remove that. Unfortunately, I don't think this really gives too much of an insight onto what the hunter plans on playing. Um, but I think these are very solid bans to get rid of.
Yes, for sure. And following the two bans on Dancer and Priestess, it looks like we have Acrobat and Patient being locked in as well. This is giving me flashbacks to round one, where we saw one of the team compositions with both an Acrobat and Patient. It is interesting to see them picked so early on. I feel like, at least in Call of the Abyss, we rarely saw Acrobat as one of the first picks. Like, not even a rescuer, not a supporter, decoder. It's going to be Acrobat and Patient. So, I don't know. What do you think, Malcolm?
I think it does highlight, NAEU's strengths in terms of going against the grain. We don't typically try to prioritize those those high risk, high support characters like the barmaid, um, like toy merchant. I would say we don't really see those type of characters being played as much here, but we relied more on those like the quote unquote selfish kiters, like the patient, like the acrobats, characters that provide minimal support here. At least that's it appears to be Fusion's playstyle in this round, and it appears to be working for them. So more power to them. They Fusion did choose to respect ban the hunter by banning Clerk. And then the hunter, excuse me, is going to respond by banning Merc and Psychologist. Um,
Yes.
any thoughts on that? I feel like those are two stable bands, honestly.
Yeah, I suppose on Fusion Survivor side, since they only need one escape to win, right? So I guess in terms of picking the selfish kiters, maybe that's part of their strategy. They don't want to play it risky. They don't want to go all in on the harassing and supporting and end up making mistakes from that. They want to try to at least ensure one survivor out by picking more robust characters. So I kind of get that from both the ban and the pick side. We have, like you mentioned, the acro and the patient, the selfish kiters getting locked in, and then Merc and Psychologist, two very tanky characters getting banned after that. Kind of, I guess thinking along that line, it kind of makes sense in terms of survivability. We now have a first officer locked in as well, so it looks like that's going to be who they're subbing in since the Merc is banned. And I know you do like first officer. You mentioned first officer before, Malcolm. So looks like we're finally going to see a first officer.
Yes, first officer. I mean, he's something of a pseudo mercenary. Still not as a consistent rescuer as mercenary, since you can still get terror shocked off sheer. However, his pocket watch, um, it's very strong in terms of kiting. If you have to self kite, very strong enough to do that. I believe his pocket watches are in some ways better than an elbow pad, especially if you're FO, since you get 3 clicks as opposed to 2 clicks. If you're anyone else, and of course the tide turner, the passive that he gets when he clicks twice, you get the tide turner, the 5 seconds of tide turner, which can help when you're doing those late rescues when you're injured. And on top of that, every time you use a pocket watch, you do get to decode faster by 7%. So at a maximum of 14%, a rescuer is decoding at, what was it, 94%, which is very good, honestly, for late game when we really care about that cipher rush. So seeing that FO picked it's very strong. I have no issues with it, and as long as I am surprised though that they chose to lock in the FO over the anti-ban, since we do see that the FO lock was followed by an antiquarian ban. Looks like Fusion is not trying to pick a. I'm not sure. Would you consider antiquarian a risky pick? She seems very highly sought after in Koa and IVL, but we haven't really been seeing this team prioritize her as much.
Yeah, I think the thing is, she can be risky if you try to use her to support, but you also don't necessarily have to. I mean, I guess in that sense, you could say she's not playing to her full potential, but at the same time, she has really good ability to help herself kite as well. So there's that too. But we do see here we have the prospector being played in lieu of an antiquarian. So they did add a harasser to the mix. I actually think antiquarian is more stable than the prospector, but prospector,
Mm-hmm.
very exciting to one of my favorite characters to watch as well. So I think it's quite fun for me. And look who we have as the hunter pick here as well, the violinist.
We do see a violinist. I think that this might be kind of a risk. However, I do believe that this hunter is quite familiar with this character. So I'm definitely going to be wishing the best for them. To get a 4-man with this hunter though was quite difficult though, since this team comp does fairly well in terms of kiting. Acrobat can use his bombs to avoid the notes. Prospector can magnet the violinist while he's noting. However, Prospector was recently heavily nerfed. Now there's a cooldown for holding magnets and even throwing magnets. I believe the time frame is 6 seconds after you throw a magnet now. So even after a magnet has been stacked, there's still you still have to wait, which I think is maybe a little bit too much, but Fusion's definitely willing to try with Prospector, even though he was nerfed. All the best for this hunter here. He does need a 4-man to breathe some life into LFY, but I'm ready for it.
Yes, I personally really like watching Violinist. I actually miss watching the matches when he was meta. Although I have to say, I was always very poor. I was always very bad at kiting the violinist, even though many people don't think he's that hard to kite. But yes, exciting to see him come back, and I love the skin as well. Or just have to say. But yeah, we see Violinist going ahead and breaking that strong palette there in the middle church area, and looks like Prospector is going to be the first person here who is being targeted in the chase. So maybe we will see some of that magnet action you're talking about earlier. Looks like it's also a peeper violinist, which is interesting, making it a little bit easier to draw the strings, I suppose, here.
Yeah, we do see that the Prospector is utilizing these high walls. There's that mag. Oh, get it! Oh no! Nice, good job done getting the note off on the Prospector. However, the Prospector was able to answer back with another magnet. However, this is fairly okay tempo in terms of the vials. Looks like the cipher progress is roughly. Oh no! Another fast no! A very fast down for the hunter side. The ciphers are barely 50%. So a very good job on this hunter side. If he can manage to get a double down or even stuff this rescue, I think LFY may have a opportunity here. And given that he's able to harass the FO earlier, he can actually slow down the ciphers even more.
Yes, that's true. I suppose for FO, he did use the watch, so he should be able to pull off this rescue no matter what. But we'll see, again, if the violinist can... Oh, this time, a little bit harder to get that note on the first officer, but we did see how accurate he was with those notes and the strings earlier. So let's see if he can prevent a very long rebound kite going on here.
Now, unfortunately, stepped away from the Prospector, so that's going to be quite a big stun. Throwing out a note there, needs to dodge it, and he's going to hit that note. When you're locked in the window animation, it made it very easy for the Vio to line that up. So unfortunately not able to rebound kite. However, he was able to die relatively farther away from the FO cipher. However, it looks like Acrobat's going to be kicked off of his. Looks like, I don't think they're making any plans on rescuing, potentially, but he has kicked off 2 people off of their ciphers. So the ciphers are actually somewhat slow, lychee.
Yes, that's true. We do see, I think first officer was the only one with tie turner as well. So in this case, it looks like you're right. Nobody is coming to rescue. They're just going to sacrifice this prospector there. And with Acrobat getting kicked off his cipher, considering no rescue happened, it feels kind of a little bit of a loss on the side of Fusion's part during that play. But never mind, we'll see how this Acrobat kites. Still lots of resources in the Acrobat's hand for kiting, I think, so hopefully can buy some more time for Fusion.
Let me use that stool bomb there, trying to get to this pallet here. Has fully triple stacked on Peeper, so he'll be able to switch immediately. FO was not able to get off the cipher fast enough. I think there might have been some issues on that end.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Let me see what's going on, but that's gonna be pretty huge for LFY's end.
Yes, rather unfortunate for Fusion. First officer's on the chair, didn't get a chance to use his pocket watch either, so is kind of on the chair with his pocket watch at this point. We'll see what the other survivors decide to do. Luckily, they are still at full health, and the patient has a couple hooks, so maybe he could make his way to the chair there and pull it off to have first officer be able to pull off a rebound kite. Looks like that is what they're trying to do. Meanwhile, the violinist, we'll see if he can get a camping advantage because he is at full presence now.
Now the FO is at full, or the FO was rescued after half. However, he does have a pocket watch, so they could honestly just pop it as soon as they can, and they are going to. FO is probably going to use that pocket watch sometime soon here, and they're getting someone immediately on that gate. Oh, looks like unable to use that full presence ability, and
yeah,
looks like I think they're gonna get their 1 man out. So I do believe Fusion's gonna win this one. Lychee. FO's doing a great job here, making his way towards top broken here.
Yes.
And he's gonna take the speed boost. Oh wow! It's a 3-man escape for Fusion's, and wow.
Yes, very impressive, especially with the dungeon escape at the very end there. Kind of, I don't know if he was almost taking the string to get that speed boost and making it to the dungeon, but the watch, of course, definitely really helped at the end game, preventing the violinist from being able to accurately pin down the first officer's location and utilize those strings as well. But very good job on Fusion's side. I think there were some hiccups on their side as well, but they managed to keep up the cipher rush and keep up the team communication, it seems like. And in the end, they were able to pull off what they need and more because they got that 3-man.
So it does look like Fusion is going to move on to the semifinals, which are going to take place next Saturday. Guys, please be there. That would be the 27th that they play on, I believe. Yes. So the 27th they'll be playing, and we'll see who joins them in the next matchup. But congratulations to Fusion. Thank you, LFY, for playing. Both teams did really well, and I hope that we get to see more of y'all in the future.
Yes. Congratulations, Fusion, and GG to LFY. And thank you to both teams for putting on a really great game for us. And like Malcolm mentioned, we'll see Fusion again when they play next weekend on the 27th. I'm not going to be streaming on this channel, but you can check it out on, I believe, the GSL YouTube page. So definitely check in for that as well.
So guys, we're going to be taking I think it's a 30-minute break for commentators to get the next teams in, and to provide you guys with the commentary that you guys deserve, okay?
All right, sounds good. So we'll see everybody back in about 30 minutes. Make sure to pop back in and support your teams. We're going to be seeing Ravens versus Python. All right. Thank you, everybody, and hope to see you back soon. Hello, everybody. We are back from our break. Hopefully, everybody had a chance to get a drink or a snack. And now we are about to head into the second match of the day, which is going to be Ravens versus Python. So, very exciting here. We are already starting to get into the bans and picks between these two teams. Again, this is Lychee. With me is Malcolm Ryder, who is the host and my co commentator for today. So, Malcolm, what do we have so far?
Well, yeah, so it looks like we do see a priestess ban on Eversleeping. The seems it seems like the surviving side has chosen Eversleeping, and a priestess on priestess ban on this map is quite strong. I feel like it's a bit, I don't want to say obvious, but it's definitely the strong choice in the first round. Given that her portals, it's very detrimental for the hunting side, right? At any portal you put down, it's going to be a long one. It's going to be followed up by a long stun, which can buy a lot of time for the surviving side to make distance to another location. So I totally agree with this ban. Um, Locking in the Antiquarian and Seer on the surviving side is something that I've been waiting to see. I've been waiting to see the Antiquarian played, so I'm very excited to see how they're going to use her here. Um, it appears that other servers that and other competitions, they've been playing Antiquarian quite aggressively, so I'll be curious to see if they try to mimic that and utilize that strategy here as well.
Yes, we'll have to see how they decide to play that antiquarian. And it looks like following the antiquarian and seer pick, we then have the hunter come in with a female dancer and toy merchant ban. So we saw earlier, we saw female dancer. She's very strong, of course. And then toy merchant has some spots on this map as well. So they've been banned. Following that, we now have a psychologist lock in. So this is quite interesting. We see they're pulling out the supporters really with every single pick, and this is Python survivors picking the
Yes,
survivors here. Yes.
yes,
So
yes. This Python is a relatively new team. We haven't really seen too much of them on the competitive side just yet. However, all these players individually have seen competitive. Faye, who we see actually used to be a team member for me on GOE back when that was a thing a couple years ago. So I definitely know that these players have seen their fair share of competitive gameplay. And I'm quite interested to see what position he'll be taking here as well. Um, Honestly, with this team comp, it's fairly solid, I would say. Antiquarian, Seer, Psychologist, and a Merc lock. Quite strong, quite stable. I think this could pay out huge dividends for the surviving side, and it might be quite difficult for the Hunter to beat this. Lychee, what do you think the Hunter might play into a team comp like this, or what do you think that their goal might be into a team comp like this?
we'll see. I have to admit I'm not familiar with what the hunter currently has in their hand, like what do they have in their hunter pool. But this is a pretty well-rounded team, like you said. There's supporters, there's a rescuer and a harasser. So I think it's kind of like you could try anybody, but I don't know if a single hunter necessarily has a huge advantage. Like maybe you could go with wax artist or something if you have that, but I think it's up to the. We'll probably see the hunter, I'm guessing, pull out their strongest pick in this round since it is round one.
Mhm. Looks, excuse me. It looks like we do see a clerk locked in. Clerk into a team comp like this, I think could potentially work if we see in the prior matchup with LFY pulling out their clerk. If they can make it so that they have one survivor eliminated before two ciphers, I think that would put them in a solid position for potentially a 3-man or a 4-man. But getting there is the difficult part with clerk, especially with a team comp like this. There's the support that we've mentioned with the Seer Owl, the Antiquarian stick. There's potential for long kiting if this clerk chooses to go for a psychologist. And of course, Merc, I don't think you want to chase Merc, although I know that hunters are doing that more and more frequently now. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that this could go either way. It just is going to come down to the playstyle and the strategies that both sides pull out for us.
Very true. We did see a clerk earlier today do an excellent job. That was on Lakeside Village, which is sometimes more of a hunter sided map. And we do think that Ever Sleeping Town, like we do say that this is more of a balanced map between hunters and survivors. So we'll see what they're able to pull off here. I will say, I think this time they do have a lot of these supporters like Antiquarian. You have that Seer Owl able to tank a hit, Psychologist. So I think it is going to be tricky for the Hunter. They can really play into more harassing, and they can have Psychologist or even the Mercenary or Seer help tank hits, which is always really strong against the Clerk as well. So I think the Survivors definitely have a very good team composition to go against the Clerk. But then again, I think I said something similar when we saw the Clerk earlier today, and of course that Clerk got a 3-person elimination. So it's always anybody's game, depending on how the play actually turns out in the game.
I very much agree. I think that Ever Sleeping, it depends on what hunter you're facing against, right? Because some team comps, if it's like a say a sculptor or a naiad or even a wax artist, you would primarily just spam a lot of the pallets in the middle area. Whereas with a clerk, I'm not sure if you'd really want to do that, given that it would be giving her a free chance to break pallets. I have a recording animation of her breaking a pallet. So I think it's going to really come down to like how the surviving side plays it out here. Because I think this map could be very versatile to your point. So here we have the match about to get underway here. It looks like we're going to have the area selection in a moment here.
Yes, and interestingly, this looks like. Oh no, this is not a lock in. I was like, is this a little girl? But no, we will have this year. Everybody is gonna bring borrowed time, it looks like, with probably just a single Chai Turner on the Mercenary. We'll see if that's what they lock in with, but it seems pretty accurate for now. Yeah, we'll have
We
to
do
see.
we do see that there's a flywheel on Antiquarian, so that flywheel I think is giving her a little bit more flexibility in terms of any type of harassment that she chooses to go for. Antiquarian's going to spawn in middle 2-story, followed by the second middle. This year's going to be a Dancing Geisha, and the Merc is going to be at the cabin 4. Okay, the Merc is going to be at cabin 4. Um, I don't really see too. I don't really see anything wrong or anything like really exceptionable about this layout spawn. Anything for you, lychee?
Uh, we'll see. The hunter is spawning closest to Antiquarian and Merc and farthest from the seer. So I don't know. It feels a little bit unfortunate for the hunter, but at the same time, we did talk about like, oh, maybe the hunter will try to chase Merc first and waste some elbow pads, or maybe they will go after the stunner so that they don't have to worry about harassing later. So I don't know. I guess potentially, depending on how the clerk wants to play, this could be good or bad news. But we will see whether this clerk chases the closest characters or if she'll make her way further into this map.
It looks like she did get eyes on the Antiquarian, choosing instead to potentially go for the cycle. Looks like the seer rotated in towards the clerk. Pallet spamming that pallet earlier. Remember when I mentioned doing that gives her a free opportunity to get that pallet break animation. So this year's gonna have to really keep that in mind for when he's kiting now, because it looks like he does have first kite here. Ciphers, I mean, looks like they're relatively slow. Looks like all three just got on a cipher right now, recording that seer, trying to make sure that if he does vault any animation, they'll have something recorded for them. But it looks like he's just buying enough time here, trying to buy enough time for that owl.
Yes, Owl is still unused. We see the clerk had one recording there after not being able to get anything for the first one. Should have Blink coming up pretty soon as well, but you do have to worry about getting rid of the Seer Owl first, which she does right now. So continuing to chase the Seer who can take another 2 hits. Oh, a good pallet stun as well. This should buy quite a bit of time for the Survivor team.
Mm-hmm. They're gonna use that palette break animation. I'm not sure if that exactly was the best play, because I mean this is not exactly an important palette, but the seer is doing a fairly nice job making this area work. And I'll take that hit and rotate towards the Antiquarian,
Blink is still available. However, if they choose to blink the Seer, this gives an opportunity for the Antiquarian to harass, and that's exactly what the Seers want. What the surrounding team wants. Oh, baiting out the hit. Oh no, he's gonna avoid. And there's the blink, and here's the Antiquarian that I mentioned earlier. So now that he wasn't able to blink, save the blink for the Antiquarian, she can honestly take advantage of the situation right here. Oh, looks like she's a little bit late.
Oh, yes. Looks like the clerk does make it to the chair without having to worry about the stuns. Oh, now she has to avoid the tram, which came by a very timely manner as well. Yeah, but we see the clerk there is going to be camping and maybe doing some cipher disrupting while she's waiting here. Mercenary here is coming in for the rescue. Does take that one hit. Oh, yeah, didn't get the takes the second basic attack here. Didn't get hit by the recording though, and now Seer's on for the rebound kite here with another owl left. It looks like.
And that's very huge that for getting that double down because it does slow the Cypher Rush down a little bit. However, we do have a Psych Whistle, so as long as Merc can self-heal or someone can pick him up, they can still try to main their Cypher Rush to some degree by whistling the Mercenary. But the Seer's doing a very good job here. The Seer doesn't have to worry about any blink, so as long as he just makes sure that this is the basic hit and oh wow, that reached. Wow, that hitbox really did reach for that. I'm quite surprised. Unfortunate for the Seer that he wasn't able to use the owl, but very good play for the Hunter.
Yes, we see Seer is back on his second chair. It looks like the Antiquarian is going to come by for the next rescue while the Psych picks up the Mercenary here. So with Antiquarian coming for this rescue, we definitely still do have room for the Seer to do a rebound kite. After all, he has the owl, and of course, Antiquarian is available to potentially support as well. Taking a basic attack, and they're just going to pull off a standard rescue with Antiquarian using her resources first before potentially, oh, Psychologist now coming in as the body blocking machine as well. They're putting all their resources to keep this Seer alive while we have a Mercoder out there doing the Cypher Rush.
And it's a bit unfortunate that the timing was just a little bit off there. The tram, I don't know if you noticed, it just left as the Seer vaulted the window. That would have been very huge for the surviving side if that support paid off. However, the Seer does have an owl along with this Antiquarian supporting, so it's very possible that we could have a 4-man up for endgame.
Yes, that would be very advantageous for the survivor side if they can have everybody remaining at the end game. It makes it so much easier to maneuver with a clerk in the game. Looks like she is going to chase the survivors off of this last cipher though. We saw it was maybe about 50% and they have 2 people trying to decode now. Oh, Seer actually got blink hit right there, which was quite unfortunate. But let's see if Antiquarian can make something happen. Oh my goodness.
Oh, wow. It looks like that blink was effectively, I would say, rendered useless, unfortunately. Gonna be an early owl, needs to lock that cipher, gonna lock that cipher, okay. And now it basically is 2 protect 1 as the cipher is almost primed.
Yes, and I'm curious if the Seer has even more progress on getting a 3rd owl as well. But for now, it looks like the clerk taking a peek back at the cipher before trying to figure out if she's gonna go continue to tunnel this Seer. Yeah, looks like gonna go tunnel the Seer for endgame. That last cipher though is getting rushed by, now we have 2 survivors over there, so and somebody hiding behind the pallet as well. My goodness.
Wow.
A pallet's done.
The teamwork from this team is quite strong. Their chemistry is really amazing. Buying a lot of time for that last cipher. Typically, we would see another cipher being started. However, I think this 2 protect 1, 1 protect 2. I think it's working out for them in this case. However, there are a lot of people injured, so there is still an opportunity for the clerk here to potentially pull out a draw or even a win.
Yes, that's true. As long as you can't pop that last cipher, she still has a fighting chance. But we'll see what they decide to do here. The Mercenary expended another elbow pad. Meanwhile, on the other side, it looks like they are grouping up. Clerk is checking the ciphers, but they have not opted yet to start another one or go back to the cipher they were decoding. They're just taking this time to kind of reset their health and make sure they're ready to go up against this clerk again while applying pressure to that already decoded cipher.
So looks like the clerk is going to be trying to pressure them off the heel while also trying to maintain pressure on the last cipher. Still not choosing to start a new cipher. I think Seer might be going to do no. Looks like Seer's going to be hanging around on the island area. Or he may be trying to protect the Seer. Looks like they're going to be healing. Yeah, I think they're just trying to go for a full reset. Trying to take control of the amount of momentum that they've bought, allowing the Seer to get full health. So as long as the surviving side can just take their time and maintain healing, I think we definitely are going to have a 4-man endgame.
Yes, the way they're playing this out is very patient, and we see that they're able to heal up but also get some resources. That mercenary is just utilized a magic wand that he's found as well. So it puts them in a very good spot for endgame once they do pop that cipher. It does look like they are starting a second cipher as well, just in case one of them gets targeted, although they are quite close together. And looks like Seer, now that he's back at full health, might end up taking a little bit of the chase.
And we do see that he did just get his third owl finally. So it looks like I think we're basically back to square one for this clerk, unfortunately. And it looks like the psych is going to be coming again. Oh, can we get the hit? And they get the hit again on the Seer. So if this clerk can land this blink, I think it's possible that the clerk might be able to eliminate might be able to eliminate the Seer before the match is over, before the ciphers are popped. Looks like they're gonna try and heal.
Yes, it's a little bit difficult though. I feel like using the blink right now could also be a risk in case he doesn't get the blink hit or the Seer owls. Oh, but actually, no, does get a very fantastic and decisive blink hit right there. Not giving the survivors any time. They try to force the heal. Now they're trying to force the wrong pickup here. But she does pick up the Seer. He's going to go back on the chair, eliminated, and they are going to have 3 people alive at endgame after popping this cipher. My goodness.
Very, very well played from the clerk here. Very decisive gameplay. Trying to find the Psych. Psych honestly is the best chase for this endgame since she effectively has nothing to kite with. I think that's why they tried to force the flywheel on her as opposed to something like Tide. I know that that's a little bit popular, but recording. Very nice mind game, but he's gonna unfortunately go down because they did give the recording image to the clerk. Blocking this gate here. Now this is the Psych's first chair, right? And she did just blink, so fortunately for the survivors, they do have some time. However, with the clerk, we do know that she's notorious for locking those gates. So unless they're able to be very aggressive with that, I think the clerk could still potentially even have a 3-man. But they are doing tinnitus, so I think they'll just take a draw in the first round.
Yes, it's looking like that's where it's headed to. And yeah, they do have the gate open, so it's looking like it's going to be a tie, which is acceptable for both teams considering this is just round 1, but definitely shows how strong Clerk was at the very end, because it seemed like everything was going very much in the survivors' favor, but the Clerk was still able to get a tie at the end after eliminating that Seer. That those last couple of plays, I think I was worried that if the Clerk didn't get that blink hit, she would have wasted the blink and had no trait for endgame. But luckily, the Clerk pulling out some really decisive blinks and being very precise every single time, landing on the target, really allowed her to eliminate that Seer before the Cypher pop and get that tie at the end. So really cool to see that.
Of course, yeah. Very aggressive, very decisive blinks from the Clerk. I think they really paid off for the Hunter. Definitely could have been some room for error, but they were confident in their skill. I think we really saw that here. So everyone in the chat, please congratulate both sides on the draw. It was very well played on both sides.
Yes, definitely. The survivors too, like you mentioned, they had really good teamwork and cooperation throughout this whole match as well. With the support coming in, we saw multiple rounds of body blocking as well, keeping the Seer alive, knowing when to kind of spread out and divide and conquer and heal up. So all of that is all really important on the survivor side in the game as well. So it's cool to see that from that side too. And I'm excited to see what they're going to bring out in round 1 second half. We just saw Python's survivors play against Raven's Hunter, so we will be now seeing Raven survivors take on Python's Hunter next.
Mm-hmm. I think we're gonna be heading into the band picks in a moment. What are your thoughts again? I covered my thoughts on Eversleeping, but what are your thoughts on Eversleeping? If I can get that again while we're waiting for the band pick.
I guess in general, it seems like a pretty safe band or map pick to me. Like I mentioned, it's one of those maps where we always say it's not super hunter sided or super survivor sided, and it's not super limiting in terms of what characters you can play. So it kind of puts both sides on an even footing. Whereas coming out with a map that's more like Lakeside first or Arms Factory first or Moonlit first kind of tends to be more in the direction of, oh, I want a certain side, a certain faction on my team to get the advantage right off the bat. So I think like actually in NAEU in the past, we did see a lot of those kinds of map picks where they would go for like, oh, let's go for Hospital right off the bat and let our survivors get the advantage, or let's go for Lakeside first or Leo's first and have our hunter get the advantage first. But picking something like Eversleeping is something that I think a lot of the Chinese teams actually like to do, because they're more of, okay, let's go with a more of a safer pick first that doesn't favor either side way too much. So it's kind of an interesting mindset to see the different strategies for the different teams here.
Okay. All right. And what do you know? Look at that. For the first ban, it looks like it's gonna be a Priestess again on Eversleeping. I think this a bit reiterating from the last round, for the last half, but Priestess on Eversleeping, her portals are very harmful for the hunter, so of course you want to remove that as best as you can. Once again, I have no issues on that, but would you like to commentate on your feelings about the Priestess?
I mean, she's definitely very strong. I personally also used to really like playing Priestess on Eversleeping. It's just so annoying for the hunter. So, of course, this is kind of one of those maps. This and Chinatown, I feel like, are both maps where she's like prioritized really in the bans. Because for the other maps, like, yes, Lakeside is very large and banning Priestess is beneficial, but it's not like, oh, she's necessarily the number one ban all the time on maps like that, just because although she's strong in her global portal, maybe if you're playing a hunter that has more map coverage or more mobility, then you're not as worried about that, and there's not as many strong portal places on that map. But if you're something like Eversleeping or Chinatown, it's like her short portals are so strong in addition to her ability to use those long portals, so it's just even more pressuring to ban the Priestess on maps like this. But yes, we got that Priestess ban, and then it looks like next is going to be a Seer and Entomologist pick from the Survivor side. So this is our first Entomologist of the day. Very exciting to see that come in from the Survivors.
Of course. Ento is a very strong support. We do see that Ento is being played more aggressively, where they sort of like put the bees in areas where when the kiter gets hit, the bees can push. Because when the hunter is in attack animation, they're locked in place. However, the bees can still push them, so you can get a lot of distance from the speed boost of you getting hit. The hunter can't move, and the bees push them. So that compounded can really pay like a lot of benefit for the surviving side, right? Whereas also being able to just being a strong kiter, and the fact that you can also mind game with not leaving tracks, since the bees, I guess, removed that. I think it makes her a really stable kiter, since bees can take hits for you. You can mind game with your erasing your feet, your scratch marks, and also you can support well. So honestly, Ento being played in this first round, I'm really excited to see what they choose to do with her, especially given that Ento Eversleeping kind of has narrow passageways, and there are places where you can put bees to really take advantage of that.
Yes, very true. We have seen Entomologist make some pretty good plays on this map. And it looks like the hunter has also banned mercenary and dancer, and the survivors responded with a first officer pick. So considering mercenary is banned, it does seem like first officer is kind of the most stable alternative. We already talked about this earlier. He can kind of sub in for the merc on these kind of smaller maps and be able to pull off a guaranteed rescue if he has his pocket watch. So no problem with subbing in a first officer, I think. And followed up with an antiquarian ban, so we'll see what the last pick is going to be.
Looks like they are going to let Antiquarian get banned. However, they are going to lock in Patient. Patient on this map, I think, is quite stable, quite a stable hunter to begin with. They're quite a stable survivor, excuse me. A bit of a selfish kiter. However, I think if the hunter just chooses to chase him first, I think the hunter could potentially get punished by that, since the host can offer a lot of distance from each hook. So and using the elevation as well from, like, say, middle 2-story or corner house even, I think it could really be harmful for them. So,
Yes, we'll see. Looks like the hunter pick has come in and it is going to be a sculptor. So that is quite interesting. We haven't seen sculptor yet today. We haven't seen actually too much of sculptor in tournaments recently, although she used to be more meta back in the past couple of years. But of course, there are still some hunters that really specialize in sculptor and have kept up their skill with her. So I am interested to see this sculptor come out today. In terms of the survivor picks, entomologist is pretty good against sculptor. I think patient is generally pretty good as well if he can, as long as he doesn't miss the timing of the hook. And then seer could potentially be a target here, I think, for the sculptor. But the owl can still help. It's just, of course, she can chip him down as well. So it's we'll kind of have to see how that plays out.
I totally agree. Sculptor first round is something we don't typically see. However, if you are looking for a draw, I think there's definitely the hunter that could do that. So I personally have no issues in seeing a sculptor here, and I'm excited to see how she'll perform here. I think sculptor does have a little bit of freedom, if I can say that, freedom on chasing whoever she would like. FO can get hit by random statues. Ento can get knocked off her bees. Seer can get chipped, and while during the animation, he can't use his owl. So some sculptors and bonbons and chip hunters in general like to take advantage of that. And then patient, of course, the statues can knock him out of aiming his hook, or even knock him out of the air. So I think the sculptor could be a solid pick with this, especially since this particular hunter has had some good success with sculptor. I can't wait to see what the result will be. There's a bit of counterplay for both sides. You know, patient can hook out of chisel range or statue range. Enzo has the faster movement speed, so it's harder to knock her off bees. And then, of course, FO is invisible or has a 1-second delay on his image. So I definitely think that this is a balanced team comp in terms of that regard. So I think that this team comp could really go either way, and I'm excited to see the survivor strategy and how the hunter plays around it.
Yes, definitely agree. And I like how you pointed out that sculptor can kind of really chase anybody at the beginning, because especially back when sculptor was more meta, and back then I think double rescuer was also more meta, we often saw sculptor running into rescuers first and being forced to chase the rescuers, but then in that case she often wasted their items. Like if first officer has his watch wasted early game, he does get a decoding boost at least, but it's kind of not as ideal for him either. So if worst comes to worst, she can do that as well. But actually, I think she got kind of lucky with the picks, with the spawn pick too, because we did see she spawned right next to the seer. So we might potentially be seeing the seer have to take that first kite here.
If the seer is to take first kite, I think graveyard could be both a good thing and a bad thing, considering how narrow the alleyways is. It makes it a bit more easier to land those statues. However, we do see that the Ento is by middle 2-story. Oh, choosing to go for the Ento instead. So it looks like everything that I just said means nothing. Going for the Ento here over at this 11 area. at the that call out to 11. And riding the bees for that extra movement speed. And we do see the statues did knock her off the bees, but Ento honestly is a very good counter here for the sculpt. Oh, landing those early statue into a hit. Amazing job from the sculptor here. But Ento chose to use the movement speed from her bees to try and make her way kiting out onto the tracks to basically null and void her statues. But it looks like it doesn't matter. The sculptor's so accurate. Wow. Instantly downing this Ento very fast down from the survival for the hunter side.
Yeah, that was a very impressive start by Loki so far. Very strong with those statues, even though she doesn't even have full presence. Like, those are just singular statues that are able to hit. So with one basic hit and 2 statue hits, we already have a chair so early in the game. So I do think, though, Sculptor is one of those characters where if you don't practice kiting against her for a long time, sometimes it's hard to remember how to dodge the statues. So perhaps that's the case here since she's been out of the meta a little bit more. But now she's even going out to pressure the first officer, and it looks like we are going to potentially have patient rescue or not. We'll see if they want to risk giving her a little bit more presence at this point in the game or not.
So the issue is that I think well, one of the big issues is that Trey was not forced out. So that does mean that if the sculptor does have trump card, I believe that if the hunter does have trump card, she could instantly teleport to any location. Say that she knows where the seer is, she could just start her instant chase and maintain her tempo. And because of that, they're not starting another cipher. And I think the hunter is able to take advantage of that. Going to be chasing the seer over at Corner House, which is good. It's good that the kite is happening at Corner House. It's a bit unfortunate that the seer is the one being chased. Oh, a very accurate statue again from the sculptor. Does need to bait out the owl, and he'll be making his way over. Lands the chip on the owl. This sculptor is very accurate in the cheat. Very, very accurate.
Yes, very scary there. And actually, there was like 2 moments right there where I thought the hunter might end up blinking, but I guess it's not worth it because there's only 1 chip down. So we'll see if she can get another chip and then take down with the basic attack, or vice versa. We do see that she's closing in here and does get the basic hit first. So potentially has the option to take down the seer with blink, or maybe some more of those accurate statues here. Looks like the survivors are able to get some decoding in, although there's only 2 of them now at this point, which does slow down a little bit, especially since one of them is the first officer.
This is a fairly decent kite coming from the seer. Any bit longer, I think that the survivors may still have a chance for. Oh, forces out trait, which is quite good. Given that that she won't be able to use her trump card for roughly 40 seconds. She can obviously switch trait, but I don't think it would be that beneficial to her, given that she won't be able to instantly use it. However, we do see that there are 3 ciphers remaining, and the survivors do have progress on the 3 ciphers. Quite a bit of progress, might I add. Which is a bit of a problem for Sculptor, honestly, where she has an issue getting cipher rushed, even though she has her ability to chisel. She can still get cipher rushed, and we just saw that in this case as well.
Yes, definitely true. First officer here closing in for the rescue. Oh, actually, this is a stuff by the sculptor here. We saw that he got actually the first chip while he had been using the watch, and then chipped again, and then with the basic attack. So unfortunate for the survivor side, but we'll see if the patient can come in and rescue instead right here.
If the first officer was able to get that rescue off, I do think that the survivors would have been in a strong position to get a draw here. But now the seer is forced to. Oh, unfortunately, couldn't body block. So now the patient is forced to try and rush these ciphers down as fast as he can. The ciphers are, I believe, they're roughly around 90%, both of them. So if the seer is able to potentially maybe die far enough, then maybe they can pop, but I'm not sure. It's gonna be close. Oh, just couldn't pop it in time. That's very unfortunate for the surviving side. For the surviving side. Yeah, that really is gonna set them back. I think they still have a chance to get a draw. However, it might be difficult.
Yes. And I was actually surprised. I didn't realize the patient had Ty Turner, although he's actually the only one whose traits are being shown at the moment. But the patient had Ty Turner. If he didn't have Ty Turner, though, it would have been even worse for the survivors because the seer would have gone down right away and eliminated, and then she potentially could have picked up first officer and have him on the chair, which puts the patient in a difficult position because then he has to rescue and the cipher needs to be popped. But in this case, we at least have 2 survivors alive at the end game to try to make something happen and get at least 1 out. Teleport, though, coming in here for the sculptor. We do see that the first officer is able to get on the tram. Can the sculptor aim a really accurate statue and knock him off here? She has one.
They're
One
trying
chance.
for it. Oh, gets hit by the tram and is not able to knock the FO off. That's going to be a really huge for the survivors because the patient's on the gate and the FO is going to be exiting the tram just by dungeon. So it's very possible that if the patient can force this gate, they can actually have a chance for a draw.
Yeah, oh my gosh. And the patient here, he did get chipped, but the sculptor doesn't really have enough statues to keep chipping him. So although he's going to run from the gate for now, I'm sure that gate has quite a lot of progress on it already. We'll see what they decide to do here. Sculptor, I think, is still trying to figure out where they've gone since they've left the gate and might be turning her attention to the patient, who the first officer has a watch left, so it's probably better that she does chase the patient, but we'll see if she can catch up here.
If the FO can get his gate open, it's very accurate statues yet again. Looks like that'll be downing the patient here. Now the thing is that FO still has Tide, so if the sculptor does chair, FO can rescue. Oh, but I think the sculptor knows. I don't know what the play should be. I think FO is using his pocket watch.
Yeah.
Okay, so the FO looks like he did leave. So that'll be. Looks like it'll be Python's win then, since they got a 3-man.
Yeah, that was very impressive, though. That was a very interesting match from the sculptor. I'm still thinking back to the very end, like the first officer, because he got stuffed, so he never used his tide. So, like you were saying, he could have potentially come back since sculptor didn't have the tension. But then again, he was chipped, so I guess it's a little bit of a risk, even if he has a pocket watch. But yeah, very interesting show from both teams there. And congrats to Python for winning round 1. And we'll see how they'll do in round 2, and if Ravens can step it up and tie it out in round 2.
Mm-hmm. So let's start that. I really did think that RV had a really strong chance to getting that dungeon escape, that potential dungeon escape. It looked like the end game was quite good. It's just unfortunate that the patient couldn't open the gate because that chisel forced them off. But accurate statues from the sculptor, great pressure from the sculptor, and survivors tried their best to answer. It was just too late. I think that terror shock on the FO really did secure it for them, though. I think that's what snowballed the rest of the game in the sculptor's favor.
Yeah, that's true. That definitely was a huge moment for the sculptor there. And yeah, I think considering the things that happened, like how early the down was and the fact that there was a stuffed rescue in this match, getting one survivor out is probably kind of the scenario that you'd expect, maybe even in a best case scenario. So they did manage to, and they almost got a tie. So they did manage to bring it back through their plays at the end. But yeah, unfortunate the patient couldn't get the gate open. I thought there'd be more progress on it, but I guess he did leave the gate a little bit early. The sculptor was trying to chip him down, and I don't think they necessarily know, like from our perspective, we can see the sculptor had no more statues actually, but as a survivor, you're not really aware of that all the time. Like you're not going to be keeping count all the time. So I think that's probably part of the reason why he left the gate a little bit prematurely as well.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely a good effort there from the survivors too.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think with a performance like that, I would not be surprised if I see a sculptor ban in the round two. Uh, but both hunters, both teams are playing exceptionally well. I think we could potentially have quite a long matchup, and I'm definitely here to see, you know, what we get. This is looking really exciting for me personally.
Yes, always awesome to see a good show from both teams, and those really close matches I think are fun as well because you're kind of sitting on the edge of your seat the whole time, clenching your hands, not sure what's going to happen. Also, we got some pretty interesting moments in that match, like when the tram hit the sculptor while she was trying to chip down the survivor. I was like, oh my gosh. At that point I was like, oh no, like on the inside. We have another tram accident, so you never know what's going to happen in these kinds of matches.
Hmm.
So
Honestly, I really did think that that was the key to them getting that draw because if FO was able to get off that tram in time, and the gate was open, that could be the draw gifted to them. But because the teleport had just been used, um, it looked like the stars had aligned almost for RV, but that chisel was too accurate, and the statues just were too strong for RV. But it looks like we have a uh arms ban, arms factory ban in the second round, yet again, followed by a red church pick in the second round. Any thoughts on that?
Red Church, well, they're both, you're kind of trading a small map for another small map, but I think Red Church is actually a little bit better for hunters generally than Arms Factory. That's kind of a generalization, but even though we often say Red Church is also one of those maps where it's pretty even to both sides, I think sometimes, like in a lot of tournaments, it ends up being a little bit more hunter sided or survivor sided depending on what gets played. So I think it's a little bit more balanced than Arms Factory in terms of the pick there, but we'll see how how it goes with the bans and the picks. This one is kind of like it doesn't limit too many hunters as well, but you do have those two strong windows in the church area, which could potentially limit certain hunters. So it'll be interesting to see.
Mm-hmm. Um, Looks like they did ban Seer Mechanic. We haven't really seen a mechanic ban recently. Mechanic has been strong, and I I used to be mechanic man. I still consider myself one, but I haven't. When I played, I was in the S badge for quite some time, and she kind of means a lot to me in my own way. And I think she'll always be a solid pick, given that her bot can do too many things. It's like having another survivor that the hunter has to worry about. She has been sort of semi-buffed, semi-nerfed. Her doll has been taking the brunt of those nerfs quite recently, but the buffs to her main body have been improving for some time now. Her debuff for vaulting has been increased to -15, and with that broken windows trait line, you can actually cancel that out now and vault like a normal survivor. So imagine a normal decoding or normal kiting survivor who has a bot now. Um, that's basically mechanic, and I think that that will be always be strong. So I think that that's a fair pick to ban. Um, and since we have that one idiot hunting, he's been known for his bonbon as well as I believe his sculptor and Anne. So I think getting rid of someone who can decode that effectively, I think, is a strong ban for him personally.
Yeah, that's true. Several very strong hunting or camping hunters among those you just mentioned who don't really like to get Cypher Rush, uh, Seer and Mechanic. I mean, yeah, so interesting to see your ban first, but also it makes sense, I suppose, once you think of the available hunters there. And it does look like they have chosen a bonbon ban for the hunter. So that one idiot is unable to pull out his signature bonbon. We'll see what else he's considering. Dancer and Acrobat have been the picks on the survivor side. So we're going to see another female dancer, which is exciting for me, as well as the acrobat coming in. This is interesting that acrobat is continuously chosen fairly early on in the bans and picks, I would say. Generally, I'm just so used to seeing acrobat as like a third or fourth pick here, but
I agree.
I guess for this is Raven Survivors. Yeah, I don't know. Since Python won round 1, right? I feel like Ravens does have to try to play a little bit more aggressively. So we'll see what else they decide to come up with on the Survivor side.
I am quite, and we do see an Antiquarian Priestess ban, and which is what I was going to lead into next. I'm surprised that they value the Acrobat more than the Antiquarian, the Priestess. Even in Barn, maybe been seeing her becoming somewhat more meta now, over Acrobat in some cases. So I'm definitely curious to see what their strategy is for Acrobat. I think they're going to be prioritizing more of that aggressive kite style, to your point. And maybe they prefer more of the safer, let's just Cypher Rush and kite style, as opposed to we'll get the ciphers later, let's just protect our kiter kind of mentality, which appears to be taking over by storm in Koa and IVL and other competitive teams mentality. So let's see if that pays off in this round. And I can't wait to see what our next locks will be.
Yes, I am excited to see as well. Looks like we're going to actually get a prospector lock in from the survivor side here. So they've kind of made up for the lack of an antiquarian with the prospector, I suppose. We have seen prospectors go really strong. I still think antiquarian is a little bit more stable than prospector, but not that prospector is bad in any way. Certainly with the dancer and the prospector, you can get a lot of teamwork and cooperative gameplays going on. And the acrobat kind of acts as like a safety net, I suppose. But at the same time, yeah, it's interesting that that's the order they decided to go in for their bans and picks. And now, coming in last, well, we do see that they haven't picked a rescuer yet, and Mercenary has been banned in terms of the rescuer here. So they're actually going to lock in the first officer.
And I've already mentioned before that I love seeing an FO pick. Given that it's a small map especially, I think this is perfect for an FO. He'll be able to Cypher Rush more efficiently whenever he uses his pocket watch. He's a stable rescuer as long as you don't get terror shocked. But that 5 seconds of time, that 5 seconds of tide turner that you get when you click the watch twice can't be understated. It's a very strong passive ability to have. And it looks like everyone on the surviving side will be running broken windows as well. So gonna be interesting to see what the hunter picks, because the hunter does not know what the builds the survivors have. So if it's someone like a Naiad, or if it's someone like a Naiad, the broken windows pick might not work out as well. However, if it's someone like an Anne, then this works perfectly for them, because Anne counters flywheel, whereas broken windows counters Anne to a degree, and vice versa. Flywheel counters characters like Naiad or Blood Queen. And whereas broken windows can struggle a little bit more with hunters like that.
Let's see. Looks like we're going to be getting an Anne here as the hunter pick. So this is interesting. I actually did have Anne on my mind just because I was thinking this is Python, who has an advantage from round 1 already. Anne is kind of known to be a tie hunter, so picking a hunter that can guarantee at least a tie is not necessarily a bad move. Anne also sometimes, if she does unfortunately have to chase the first officer, she has a little bit of leeway since the cats could potentially help with that chase as well. I think maybe in Koa or one of these recent tournaments, we did see an Anne actually manage to down a first officer using her cats because of that. So yeah, definitely a little bit of opportunity here playing Anne against this team comp as well. I think it's doable to at least get a tie, hopefully even more. So we'll see how they do against each other.
Of course. Now, I do think that it's actually like there's a possibility that the Anne might purposely chase the FO since the cats do counter him to your point. So the FO actually has to be a bit more on the safer side. Can't afford to be as aggressive because this Anne, honestly, I think this hunter made a name for themselves with their Anne. The Anne, I think we've seen it a couple times before in the Koa regionals, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe in an IVC somewhere. That one idiot has their Anne is quite dangerous. The jumps that they're capable of doing, and I'm looking forward to seeing that type of skill showcased in this round right now. And I think that this Survivor team comp actually was prepared for an Anne. I think they purposely all brought broken windows for this case. I think they chose to bait out that Anne on purpose by getting rid of his bonbon. And I think that's why we also see a prospector and a dancer as well as the acrobat. I think this team comp might be well tailored for this hunter. So let's see how this hunter does under these circumstances.
Yes, we'll have to see. This Anne looks like she's already on the hunt, and this is going to be the prospector, I think, who is getting chased first. Yep, prospector in the shack here. Well, we'll see, because Anne, I think, actually does have a fighting chance against the prospector as well. Although I think some people think that prospector counts as Anne, but I think it's hard to play prospector against Anne. We can see right here she's already catching up to the prospector and should be able to land a hit to start us off right off the bat.
Very early hit for the Anne. They chose to vault just so that because they were afraid that the magnet duration might last long enough for the prospector to get away. But we do see the prospector rotating towards these slow boxes here, and that's going to buy a lot of time for them to get to this next area. And there's going to be acrobat support dropping down a slow bomb as well, next to more slow boxes, Lychee.
Yes, that is so frustrating for the hunter to deal with. But luckily, this cat did land on the prospector here. Prospector, a blink coming in here to take down this prospector across the pallet. So we are going to see prospector now go back onto the chair. Yeah, I think we'll see. It feels relatively fast for me, but the survivors have been decoding quite a bit, so we'll see how this goes for the rescue.
Unfortunately, I do think that because the dancer was spending time setting up most of her boxes, as well as the acrobat getting off the cipher, that the survivors unfortunately took a little bit too much time off the ciphers, and ultimately that led to a fast down, or a relatively fast down. Like the kite was relatively long, however the ciphers weren't there to match it. And here we have the acrobat taking a body block, offering more time for the prospector to get away, and now the Ant's gonna switch towards the acrobat. Wow.
Yes, this is interesting. Acrobat here does still have some bombs to work with if he can buy enough time for his cooldown, but the Ant's cats should also be cooled down by then as well. And she's gonna go ahead and use the cats. A bomb being utilized here, but we'll see if this Ant can catch up. This did give the chance for the prospector to get healed up on the other side of the map though, so I don't know if this is going to be that advantageous for the Ant to have switched targets to this acrobat, because it feels like the survivors might be able to gain back some of their time that they spent in the beginning.
I fully agree. And on top of that, it's as if the the red bomb was canceled out by the jump, by the stun from the jump. So that's effectively a wasted ball, which is better for the Ian, because now she knows that the acrobat has no bombs left to work with. Unfortunately for acrobat, he can't get any other bombs except for his red bomb while he's kiting. So as long as this Anne can just prevent him from decoding or rescuing someone else, then he's effectively a rock kiter, and his strength is lost. However, by switching to the acrobat, they effectively have restarted their first chase, and now the prospector is back again to support. So, but it looks like, that could be close. Dodges the hit and gets to the vault. That's gonna buy a little bit more time for this acrobat. The prospector's gonna have enough time to get around. That magnet won't land, but we got slow boxes, but it doesn't matter because Anne can just jump. These hunters with their gap closing is hurting this game.
Yes. Luckily, the prospector just has his magnet back from the cooldown. We'll see if he's able to make something happen here. Looks like the cats actually got him before the magnet was able to activate. So good timing there, and the Anne is able to get the survivor back onto the chair. That was a little bit close. But yes, we'll see how they can come back from this. Looks like people are coming over for the rescue. We might even have 2 survivors in the vicinity here.
Looks like we're gonna see cats coming. It looks like there might gonna be double rescuing. There's 1 cipher remaining. Let's see what that's at. Cipher is gonna be at 30%. They really have to. Wow, stunning that off. Oh, looks like both cats disappear though. I believe they're gonna try and go for a farm here. Prospect is prepping the chair so that it buys more time, and it's gonna lead to a farm, unfortunately. So the acrobat will be eliminated with the last cipher at 50%.
Yes. Oh, 1 more magnet from the prospector, but it looks like she was able to drop this acrobat in time, so no matter for the Anne, and acrobat is going to go off to the manor, unfortunately. So that does leave the Anne with 3 survivors. At this point, we do know that that last cipher does have progress, but at the same time, first officer got chased off of the cipher. At half health, he does have a watch. We'll see how quickly this Anne is able to down another survivor and whether the survivors are going to go back to that cipher or start a new one. If this first officer decides to kite away from that cipher, looks like they may choose to go back to that cipher.
Looks like they are going to down this FO relatively close to the cipher. I think the Anne might be able to drag them, and it looks like they will do that. And Anne, with her not so recent buff, she's able to lock off survivors if she catches them and cancels the ability. So she can effectively stop this decoding here if she's able to land it, but it looks like she misses. She's gonna have to redirect the cross, and that one's gonna miss as well. But looks like the dancer's gonna have to be able to rescue. Will they pop it? Looks like they're gonna pop the cipher, and they're gonna go instantly into a pocket watch. So 3 survivors up endgame. I think this could potentially be a solid tie for this Anne, which is, once again, always welcome.
Yes, definitely. And we'll see the prospector being the endgame kiter here. Looks like he is going to be caught up by this Anne. And the Anne, oh, she has blink. Is she going to try to... She looks like she's going to go for the first officer, potentially, who was trying to open that gate here. See if she can get something a little bit more, depending on how fast she can down this first officer. But I do think the prospector should be able to self-heal as well. Oh, utilizing that, actually, that blinked in order to down the first officer right there.
And the prospector was able to just get up. Now he does know that this gate has minimal progress, roughly about 35%. Can he see the prospector? I don't think he saw the prospector. However, he can somewhat take a gamble that they're heading towards mid-broken. Now the Anne has to make an insane assumption. Landing the cat on the prospector, knows the dancer's at reception. This could honest. Oh no, they're gonna back off. They thought the dancer might rescue. I think that's gonna be. I think because of that hesitation, it's gonna be a draw. Wow. Wow.
And we saw the dancer kind of duck down at the end there too to try to stay hidden. So that was really key at the end there, because I thought she was gonna commit to the prospector. But yeah, ended in a draw. I suppose we talked about Anne being a tie hunter, so I suppose this is one of the expected results here. But a good play from both sides there. I think actually the Anne changing targets the acrobat, and the acrobat actually kited a fair amount of time there to kind of bring things back a little bit over to the survivor side, or at least even things out a little bit more than they were at the beginning. So that was one of the things I remember that helped the survivors in the match.
Definitely, I think both sides got what they both were looking for. Question mark. Obviously, teams do want to win. However, I think a tie here is perfectly acceptable. So looks like they're gonna be starting our second half now. Once again, Python is ahead by they didn't win round 1. We are in round 2. So if RV is able to get a 3-man from their hunter side, that means that it will be tied 1-1. If RV only gets a draw, then we'll be at 1-0, and we'll have a third round. And if they cannot get a draw or more, then that means Python will win the round and the matchup, and then they'll go on to playing in the semifinals on the 27th.
Yes, thank you for that recap on the score. I know I always have trouble thinking of the score while I'm commentating, so definitely very helpful to let us know and let the audience know where the teams currently stand. And yeah, we'll have to see how round two second half goes. These teams have definitely been putting on a fairly close game in the matchups so far, so I think it's still anybody's game at this point as well, even if Python does have that first round one advantage.
I do agree. Both teams appear with both strategies and their team comps, they both appear to be somewhere around the same. So I think this is quite a decent matchup, and I'm looking forward to see what they can pull out for us. I'm wondering if any team is going to try and make a risky play, and try to say, we need to get a win here. Let's try to get a win here and pull out something quite crazy like a toy merchant or embalmer, something you wouldn't typically see, I suppose. At least not see on the NA side. It looks like NA EU for the most part tries to be more safer in terms of like, okay, we'll just depend on this character just kiting, and then if we have to support, then I guess we'll do it, rather than just doing the aggressive supporting playstyle that we typically see in other servers. We did see a little bit more aggression here from the RV side. However, I don't think that I think their base character pool with the acrobat was a little bit more of a selfish pick, if that makes any sense. I do think it still worked for them in their second kite that they had with the acrobat. So overall, I think both sides are quite even, I would say, in terms of strength.
Yes, that's true. I suppose it doesn't really matter who you pick as long as you're able to play them well at the end of the day. So it did kind of work out well for them in the actual game. But we'll see. Of course, for RV, if they can get the win here, that would be nice. But at least securing the draw is kind of the least you want to do. So we'll see if that impacts their strategy at all. And then same for Python side really as well. But yes, looks like we're already coming in with a Seer and Dancer ban. And this is going to be RV's Survivors playing. Our Python Survivors playing. So Python has their Seer and Dancer banned is the first piece of news here.
It looks like they did respect ban Loki's Hunter, banning that sculptor. They don't want to deal with it anymore. So I'm interested in seeing what Loki plays. I've played against him a couple times in rank. I think he plays Wax Artist and potentially Bonbon, if I recall. So I'm on a map like Red Shirts. I think both could potentially excel here. But I think he's also quite skilled with Blood Queen as well. All of those hunters are quite solid on a map like Red Church, but they are typically referred to as staple draws. Bonbon is a typical draw hunter, given the fact that if he gets a fast down, we can just sell him, or if he gets kited, then we can just Cypher Rush him and not rescue because his camp is quite solid. Because his Cypher pressure is quite minimal. Blood Queen does have Cypher pressure, however, its typical 2 mirrors and a blink can lead to a draw for the surviving side, as well as Wax Artist. Wax Artist, as long as you don't die where people are decoding, it's very hard for him to block ciphers with his Wax. So, given what I recall from his Hunter pool, I do think that this could go either way in terms of draw, loss, win. But I do think that this is maybe leaning more heavily on the draw side.
Yes. And I guess a draw, I mean, that would be the minimum to push it to the second round. And for survivors as well, a draw is not the end of the day either. So we have seen, though, survivors sometimes have a harder time getting draws so far. So I think for the survivors, if they can try to just focus on securing that draw, it might not be a bad strategy here. Looks like the first picks, I guess, for the survivors here is going to be Priestess and Prospector coming in for This is Python Survivors. So interesting, they did choose Priestess on Red Church. She is somebody who can do really well kiting around the church as well as setting up those support portals, but it's kind of a choice for the team whether they want to go for that strategy or not. Sometimes we see teams that really like that strategy with the Priestess, and some really don't care for Priestess at all on Red Church. So looks like they are going to try to go for that Priestess strategy, along with Prospector, who we did see can be a good supporter, but is interestingly once again chosen over the Antiquarian here.
Psych. Banning the psych, I'm not sure what that could mean. I think this could be a Dream Witch potentially. Wanting to get rid of the prolonged. Typically, Dream Witches would ban Merc if their playstyle is let's just injure everyone and see what can happen. So banning the Merc prevents them from being able to do half health rescues. However, we do have FO now with his pocket watches that can kind of work around that strategy. And then Psych, of course, her healing is dangerous against the Dream Witch, and as well as her kiting potential. So, not really sure what the angle is for the Hunter, but I definitely think they have a plan for it, and I can't wait to see what that's going to lead to.
Yes, I'm curious as well. Seer and Psychologist, I mean, you have some very tanky characters getting banned there from the Hunter's side, so they may also be thinking about maybe something like a Clerk or a single hit Hunter, but it looks like the Survivors are going to lock in a Barmaid, which is not necessarily a bad idea since the Psychologist has already been banned here, and Barmaid can kind of play a similar role, whether it's healing up the Rescuer or potentially helping to body block at some point, or just having that flexibility with the healing. We'll see where this carries them. And then the last ban from the Hunter side is going to be the First Officer. So that's quite interesting that they ban both Merc and First Officer, putting the Survivors in a little bit of a position where they don't have one of the best rescuers. They kind of have to pick from, I almost want to say like the next tier of rescuers, which is kind of like you either go for Wildling and Gravekeeper or just choose these kind of secondary rescuers like the Acrobat and Patient. So it does kind of put a little bit of pressure on the Survivor side in terms of rescues. But that is interesting because I was saying like maybe they're going for a single hit Hunter because they banned like all those other characters. But if they were going to play a single hit Hunter, then that doesn't really put much pressure on rescues anyway. So I'm really curious to see how this is all going to come together.
Locking in a Gravekeeper next, I think, or that's gonna be their final lock. Excuse me. Locking in the Gravekeeper for their final pick. So we have a team comp of a Priestess, Prospector, Barmaid, and then a Gravekeeper. This is a very, I would say, stable. However, I think that if the Hunter does choose to play someone like Bonbon, there could be some potential for him to, for the Hunter to have an edge here. In terms of kiting, the Gravekeeper is quite stable. In terms of rescuing, the Gravekeeper can be fine since he gets that rescue bonus if he gets out of his shovel. However, someone like a Bonbon, then that could counter that, as well as Naiad even. If the Naiad plays it well and doesn't pop the shovel, then the Gravekeeper is forced to get out of the shovel, and then that water still stays. So then the Naiad can just simply move around and then apply more water until the point where they pop. So definitely some room for the Hunter to make plays here. And I think for someone like Python, I don't think that that's what they're exactly looking for in this case right now.
Yes. And looks like the Gravekeeper is going to be carrying the Soul Tide Turner, with Prospector having Flywheel and the others having Broken Windows, everybody with Borrowed Time. So I guess it's kind of typical, but yeah, we'll have to see, since some Hunters definitely you definitely do better with certain traits than others. But in general, if I didn't know, that's probably what I would end up picking for myself as well, just because I think like Prospector as the harasser, having that flywheel for some extra room is always helpful, whereas the others having broken windows is kind of, you give yourself some leeway in case the hunter is one that you can do well with by buying a lot of distance. But yeah, we'll see for RV Hunter. RV Hunter, they do have to try to get at least a tie here, and ideally can get a 3K so that they can even out the score into a 1-1, because right now it's 1-0 in Python's side. So I think they could consider a tie hunter, but if they have a hunter that they think is really like a win hunter, if they have something among their mix, they can definitely consider that.
And it looks like we do see, I believe, the number one hunter for NAEU, who's an Ann main, locking Ann. So it looks like we're gonna have a Ann back-to-back sort of match for round 2. And I think that's gonna be quite interesting. Because the Ann, as we've stated, is typically referred to as a draw hunter as well. And Ravens does need to get a 3-man or a draw minimum to force another round. So hopefully this hunter, I think, can do that, right? So
yes, I am excited to see how the number one hunter Ann is gonna do. So especially with the back-to-back matchups between the Anns here, I feel like we might either see something very similar or something very, very different. So let's see how that turns out. For sure, I guess in this case, Gravekeeper is not necessarily bad against the Ann, considering the Ann did ban the other 2 rescuers, but they still came out with somebody who can rescue against, or not get like countered by the Ann, I guess, as easily.
right. Locking in that Prospector. Now, I think the weak point of contention for the Survivor side might be the barmaid, if she has a cat on her while she's drinking. If the Ann can get a stun on her, say she's vaulting a window or a pallet, that could derail their plans, as well as the Priestess. Anns are notorious for canceling portal animations with cats. So it'll be interesting seeing how the survivors work around that. But that being said, though, if the survivors are able to play it right with their tempo, like, okay, I took a cat, now I can drink. Okay, I got hit with a cat, now I can portal. Then I think there still might be some point of light for the survivors in this case.
Yes, we'll see what the Ann decides to do, because we do see that she is closest to the Gravekeeper and the Prospector here. And we did actually see the Ann got a pretty fast down on Prospector in the previous match. So I don't know, maybe we'll see something start off the same way, or maybe not, depending on what this Ann decides to do. I don't know, for me, it feels like a kind of a, not necessarily a super strong or super weak team comp to go against an Ann. Like, it doesn't really feel to me that, one side has the great advantage here. So we'll see. If anything, I do agree with you. I think it feels almost a little bit weaker on the Survivor side, but I don't know. I think it'll really depend on their gameplay here.
Looks like we have the Python survivors rotating in towards each other. That is not what you want in your early game like this. Barmaid's gonna have to try and hide to the best of their ability, because I do believe the Ann will try to switch them if they can. Going to be they drop it. They're taking the magnet on purpose. And the barmaid is going to be their first chase over in this area over here. I'm not entirely sure if this is the best place to kite an Ann, given that you would primarily want higher walls. Using the speed bottle prematurely, but that is going to allow them to get to this top broken area, and that's going to allow them to be able to kite. And that's going to be already a solid tempo, given that that blink is up and we don't even have a first hit yet. And there's the blink. And I'm not sure if the barmaid will not drink. She's gonna try and gamble that the rescue will be good enough for. Oh, she's gonna drink now. She's wasted jump. Oh, wow! Amazing support from the Priestess and the prospector are able to get out, I think the prospector's abilities will be refreshed in time. And everyone is full health already. Oh, couldn't get the magnet in time, so he'll get that first hit right there. And it looks like the Anne has shifted entirely to the prospector.
Yeah, we see this other change in targets here, and it looks like this cat actually didn't bite the prospector. Not sure how that was avoided since that was such a large cat area. But the prospector is able to live another day, which is buying a lot more time for the survivors here, considering the Anne already used her blink and had to change targets onto this prospector. So we'll see if she can get him down with this cat. Unfortunately, the first round of cats missed. She does have another chance here.
Ooh, wow, when you look at the size of those cats, it's very hard to avoid those. I sympathize with this prospector here, but a very good kite, very good early game kite. One cipher already popped in. The remaining three are roughly around 30, 45, and roughly 85. And the Griefkeeper's already coming into rescue, so I think that the survivors are in a solid position as it stands right now. And traits not even up as well, so it's possible that the prospector will be able to have. Oh, a very nice rescue from the Gravekeeper, being able to get the free rescue and then body block afterwards. I do believe we'll be seeing some Priestess support as well.
Yes, we do see those timely Priestess portals come in, and watching that Gravekeeper rescue, he was so fast after he came out from the ground there. So, really nice that for the survivors that they were able to get that free rescue and body block, like you mentioned. And we're going to see Prospector continue to kite. Ty Turner is already expended, so he's just buying additional time, which is even better. Barmaid is also coming in to support as well and actually took the cat for the Prospector, which makes it even harder for the Ant to be able to catch up now. Oh, and this cat just running by as well.
Wow, amazing teamwork from Python over here. This barmaid knew that she needed to take the cats for this. Oh, trying to blink, fails to blink, and the magnet to push back to confirm that the prospector will be safe. So it looks like this barmaid here is just going to be buying more time for. Oh, they're going to drink as well. Barmaid trying to throw the pallet, can't throw the pallet in time. So that's a bit of a wasted drink, unfortunately. And the pallet's done to avoid the hit for the barmaid. Last ciphers is at 70, I would say, roughly around 70, 65 or 70%. And barmaid, no, barmaid's gonna take a hit, unfortunately, as they were opening a chest. So this is gonna force the priestess to rescue, but the priestess, the prospector struggled. Wow, the prospector struggled out, and he has a magnet for endgame kite, and dungeons even here at Backgate IVLychee.
Oh my gosh, that was quite unfortunate there that he was able to struggle out. Quite unfortunate for the Anne, and they're able to actually just pop the ciphers right away without even waiting. Anne here was trying to catch up with a jump, but wasn't able to, so now she doesn't have cats at the moment either, and they are actually already decoding this gate as we speak. Can they have this gate open and make a run for getting out the gate on the side here? Prospector has magnets to be able to buy some more time as well, and looks like it is open, Malcolm.
And that's gonna be a format escape, insane ending. Well played by Python. Wow.
My gosh.
That was wow. The 4-man escape on top of that. That's insane. Very well played from Python's end. Very well played from RV.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
I'm at a loss for words.
oh my gosh. I know. That was really fantastic seeing all the coordination between the survivors. Like, it was just beautiful to watch. And with that, I guess this is a 2-0 situation for Python. So they're going to be the team that's moving on. So I guess we can say congrats to Python for their really great gameplay today, and also good game as well to Ravens, who gave us some really fun matches to watch as well.
Exactly. That was very, very exciting. My goodness. So I guess this does mean that Fusion will be playing against Python next week on the 27th. Very exciting. Can't wait to see what our matchups are going to unfold tomorrow. For those who aren't aware, looks like we do have We do have B4U going against GOE tomorrow, same time, 3:30 EST, as well as Omni and Seven playing right after them. So we hope to see everyone in the chat again tomorrow. Got a lot of exciting matchups for you still. So please tune in, and if you, of course, you'd like to share the stream with your friends, please do so. Thank you guys for coming. I'm glad you guys came. I'm glad I got to commentate with Lychee. So I'm still in shock by that last match. That ending was quite insane.
Yes, that was insane for sure. But for Python, I guess it's a good way. It must feel good for them to end it on that note with the 4-person escape. But yes, thank you, Malcolm, for also inviting me to commentate and also having the chance to stream. I know that there were some technical difficulties with the audio. People who watch my channel probably know I'm always having technical difficulties. So it's nothing new for me, but thank you to all the people watching who are very patient with us today as we figured things out. And hopefully we'll have a smooth day tomorrow. You can tune back into this channel at the same time, like Malcolm said, 3:30 to watch B4U, GOE, and Omni, and 7 play. And it's going to be fun. So keep an eye out for the stream link that's going to go up soon. And I hope to see you all back again. But thank you, everybody. Thank you, Malcolm, and all the people running the tournament behind the scenes, as well as the players, and excited for tomorrow. All right.
Thank you all once again.
Yes, thank you. All right. Well, we are going to say goodbye to everybody in the chat. Thank you so much for supporting your teams and just showing up and watching. And we'll see you tomorrow, and have a good rest of your day. Bye, everyone.